Chapter 213. Such a group of people naturally attracted everyone's attention. With one look, it was clear who they were here for. When Li Hongyuan went out on a daily basis, he usually brought along his personal attendants and bodyguards. It was very rare for him to bring along his maidservants. Therefore, the number of people who had seen his maidservants could be counted on one's fingers. Now that such a group had appeared, their faces were beautiful, their figures were graceful, every one of them was a great beauty. Just based on their faces, they were definitely above Jingwan. Moreover, their bearing, to be honest, wasn't bad. In terms of literary skills, they might even be better than Jingwan. While many men were pretending to be elegant, carrying the demeanor of a gentleman as they sized up, many women were also looking. However, after looking at them, their gazes fell on the pavilion, smiling with unclear intentions. So what if Jin Qinhuang respected his first wife? At most, it was like this. There were so many enchanting beauties by his side, of all shapes and sizes. But then again, he was a noble descendant. To be able to respect his first wife was already not bad. Moreover, he was different from others. He didn't care about his reputation. With Laozi's support, even if he favored his concubines and destroyed his wife, no one would care. The higher the husband's status, the more dignified and virtuous the first wife had to be. She couldn't be enchanting, couldn't have her own personality, and couldn't take the initiative to seduce her husband. Otherwise, she wouldn't have the demeanor of a first wife and would lose face for her man. However, when she endured and did all these, she would most likely be disliked by her man for being dull, inflexible, and emotionless. Things were so laughable. How many women didn't go through this? Don't blame anyone. Even the bit of envy and jealousy towards Sun Yijia had faded by a lot. Sure enough, she couldn't compare with those who were better than herself. Only when she thought of those who weren't as good as herself, could her heart be balanced. Si, Gur, and Fu, the 4 personal maidservants, followed by the ordinary palace-attired maidservants, stood far away outside the pavilion, their voices slightly raised, "Greetings to master." Li Hongyuan's back was facing them, but Jingwan could clearly see them with her head tilted. In this pavilion, the one who could be addressed as Master Zhu, could it be her? He smiled and raised his chin at Li Hongyuan. His meaning was obvious. Li Hongyuan didn't move at all, as if he didn't know that there was a group of people outside. Most of the time, he really couldn't figure out what this person was thinking. Since he did not respond, the maidservants continued to maintain their greetings. After all, they were still carrying something in their hands. However, looking at these beauties, especially the 4 leaders, their movements were quite consistent and their expressions were unusually calm. They were definitely well trained. Jingwan even felt that they might have practiced martial arts. After all, they were somewhat similar to Bai Xiao. This subject's daughter saw that they seemed to have brought a lot of delicious food. Does your highness not plan to let this subject's daughter have a taste? Having something to do, even if it was just eating and drinking, was better than just sitting there doing nothing. Although sitting like this was not particularly uncomfortable, this bastard's words were too perverted. If she did not distract herself a little, she really did not know when she would lose control and lose her self-control and directly go against her superior and beat him up. There were a lot of marks on her body, but there were also a lot of wounds on his body. When Li Hongyuan heard this, he raised his hand. The beauties obediently got up and walked gracefully into the pavilion. Once again, they paid their respects, but this time, the person they paid their respects to was the 3rd young miss of the Luo family. Jingwan slightly raised her eyebrows and calmly accepted it. These beauties' movements were nimble. A chessboard was placed on the table between the 2 of them. The white pieces were on the right side of Jingwan, while the black pieces were on the right side of Li Hongyuan. On both sides, there were juicy fruits that looked exceptionally delicious. There was also tea. Jingwan guessed that the tea should be just right for her to drink. Another short table was set up on the side, and more processed fruits were placed on it. The whole process was silent, and they even lowered their eyes, not even glancing at each other. These servants do not know Miss Luo's taste. If you like to eat something, or if you don't like to eat something, just tell these servants. Perhaps Miss Luo is more accustomed to having her own people to serve her. It would be best to call Mama and Jeje in. Qing Shi said softly. Her attitude was respectful, as if Jing Wan was their master, and the real master, Li Hongyuan, was just an outsider. This scene, no matter how one looked at it, was a bit strange. Jing Wan's expression did not change. She looked at the things that were within her reach. Not to mention the fruits, there were many varieties, and each one was only about 2 or 3 mouthfuls. Moreover, she was not very picky. The key point was that those snacks were only the size of a fingertip. Those were all things that she liked. They did not know her taste? He. They are all not bad. I've troubled you. Miss Luo is too much for these servants. These are all things that these servants should do. Even if they should do it, it would be after she married into Jin Qin Wang Fu. However, Jing Wan did not say much. Li Hongyuan did not let them go out, so Jing Wan naturally acquiesced to them staying. Does Wang Ye want to play a game of chess with this subject's daughter? However, this subject's level is very limited, probably only at the level of knowing. The emotions in Li Hongyuan's eyes were much lighter than when the two were together. It doesn't matter, it's just to pass the time. Even if you don't know, Ben Wang can teach you. Wan has always been intelligent. She will not be stumped by insignificant black and white pieces. Jing Wan paused. Wang Ye, this subject's daughter always feels that, no matter how intelligent a person is, there should be a place where they are weak. And no matter how intelligent a person is, they may have an extremely high talent in a certain aspect. Li Hongyuan hooked his lips into a smile. Then what exactly does Wan want to express to Ben Wang? TSK, he actually didn't directly say, Wan, you're referring to your chess skills being crippled. It turned out that Jin Qin Wang also had times of benevolence. This subject's daughter has not studied chess and does not know how high her talent is. If she is too stupid, Wang Ye should not dislike her too much. Whether it's good or bad, it's just a plaything. If Wan likes it, then play a bit more. If you don't like it, then just put it aside. Everything was based on her preferences? Your bottomless indulgence. It's really not a problem. The game had already begun. When the number of pieces on the chessboard gradually increased, Li Hongyuan slowly explained to her. He was very meticulous and very patient. Every time he could place the pieces on those positions, he would accompany her to try it out step by step. Sometimes, he would even go back a few steps and teach her another path. Jing Wan learned seriously, and for the first time, she felt that playing chess was so interesting. As time went by, many people came and went. Later, one after another, there were princes who had not yet been crowned as kings, as well as adult princes and their Wangfei who had finished their work. The age of these people was increasing. However, there wasn't a single person who didn't have eyes and came to the pavilion, including Prince Rue. Compared to coming to Li Hongyuan's place to be abused, it was naturally more important to get closer to those young talents. Therefore, even though they were not far apart, it was like 2 different worlds. Prince Rue looked at the pavilion. She actually wanted to invite Jing Wan, but again and again, she couldn't get a chance to be alone with her. In fact, there were advantages to having more people, but Jing Wan also didn't give her a chance to express her goodwill. Every time, she was always avoided by Jing Wan. Then, not only her, even Prince Rue also found out that Li Hongyuan didn't want them to get close to Jing Wan. Prince Rue was a bit unwilling to give up, but when he saw Li Hongyuan's face getting colder and colder, he could only give up. When it was almost time, they dispersed in 2s and 3s. The 2 people who didn't fit in also ended their chess game. Jing Wan unknowingly ate a lot of food, but she didn't feel hungry at all. Then, she clapped her hands and left, leaving the mess to Li Hongyuan to clean up. Jing Wan and Sun Yijia got on the same carriage. Seeing that she didn't seem very happy, "Sister-in-law, what's wrong?" "Your third brother's picture of a carp playing with a lotus was taken away by Prince Rue. That painting, I like it very much." Jing Wan was silent. The other person had a high position and was also shameless. If he wanted to leave, there was no way, but, how about I ask Prince Jean to get it back? In any case, that scoundrel was even more shameless. Whatever he wanted, there was probably nothing that he couldn't get. Sun Yijia stared blankly. Looking at Jingwan again, she already had a bit of ridicule. There's no need for that, but, you and Prince Jean. Unfinished words, couldn't be spoken, could only be understood. Jingwan didn't mind. It was just a game of chess, nothing shameful. Since it was a literary gathering, it naturally couldn't just revolve around one or two people. Jingwan didn't know, but Sun Yijia had seen many masterpieces of poetry. There were also some calligraphy and paintings that weren't lacking in top quality. Except for a few people who harbored such thoughts, most of the others were very satisfied. In fact, Sun Yijia was also very satisfied. Just like before they came to avoid the summer heat, Jingwan had said, show off one's husband. Today, she really did, intentionally or unintentionally, fiercely show off. It wasn't that she did anything, but Luo Jingbua unconsciously did a lot. Not to mention that he always carefully protected her. Even when he was painting, he would occasionally glance at her, as if he could only feel at ease when he saw her sitting steadily by his side. That posture wasn't fake. Moreover, even if someone deliberately faked it, they wouldn't be able to reach his level. Don't know how many married and unmarried women were jealous to death. Jingwan's misery couldn't heal the hurt in their hearts. That's right, I didn't see Ruan Fengfei today. It is said that she has already been sent to Prince Zhongfu. Jingwan's reaction was flat. In fact, she knew some things about Ruan Fengfei. It was quite miserable, but that was enough. In the future, it would have nothing to do with her. On the 5th day, they received the imperial decree to return to the capital. Every family began to pack up and set off 2 days later. On the way back, it was very peaceful. Perhaps they didn't want to stay any longer and cause more trouble. The journey was also a lot faster. Compared to when they came, they used 1 day less to reach the capital. https://www.beacon.com/11/11807/6653269. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.beacon.com. Bikugu mobile reading website, Beacon.com. Chapter 214. When the emperor returned to the capital, the officials naturally lined the road to greet him. Emperor Lu Chengdi was kind. He knew that the journey was tough, so he dispersed when it was about time. At the same time, the officials who had nothing important to do could go to the court in advance. In this way, the two heads of the Luo family returned. Except for those who couldn't go out, such as Luo Rongping, who was paralyzed in bed, and little Wang, who was in confinement, everyone else waited at the door. When they saw the two elders, Luo Rongwen led them to kneel and greet them back. Luo Peishan, on the other hand, was as elegant as ever, with a hint of indifference and a hint of calmness in his dignified manner. Most of the time, he had such a face, so it was not strange to see him like this. As for old Madame Luo, she was also wise and calm. She did not shed tears when she saw her son and grandson after 2 months of separation. One must know that when she brought Jingwan to the capital, she did not show much emotion even after a few years of not seeing her. Everyone was also used to the two elders only treating Jingwan as a treasure. They were all in the state of grass. Now, no one in the Luo family really cared about this. More or less, they hid it in their hearts and didn't show any clues. They wouldn't do anything they shouldn't do. It was purely looking for death. In addition, they weren't mistreated by the Luo family. It was unnecessary and not worth it. The 3 girls who were married were the best witnesses. Needless to say, the eldest girl had a stable position in her husband's family and was flattered more and more. Jingwan didn't shortchange her of the benefits that the women of the Luo family should have. Naturally, she also knew a lot of things from her mother. How could she have evil thoughts? As for the second girl, although she was a concubine's daughter, she was also considered to have married into a lower family. She was backed by the big tree of the Ministry of Official Personnel Affairs and didn't have a bad relationship with her family. Luo Peishan also gave her husband's family a certain amount of support. Even if she didn't have children for a few years, her back was straight and upright. As for the fourth girl, she was a troublemaker all day long. Many people didn't like her. Now, she was a despised concubine. Even if she was in the prince's mansion, no one in the Luo family knew that she was pregnant. Even if they knew, no one cared. Her own mother even abandoned her. She felt to this point, the biggest factor was her own status. The worst relationship with Jingwan was one disaster after another. After entering the gate, Luo Peishan waved his hand to disperse everyone and let them do what they should do. Jingwan was a little dispirited now. She pushed her sister-in-law, who was more energetic than her, out to deal with her mother. Anyway, the child in her belly was Madame Zhang's grandchild. When they left, Madame Zhang didn't know. Later, she found out from the letter and probably had been longing for it for a long time. Now, she could see the truth and be happy. Begonia House was a place that she was already familiar with. Even if she came back with Jingwan, her personal maids went back first. With the help of the little maids, everything was prepared. After bathing and changing clothes, Jingwan ate a little something to fill her stomach. Then, she went to sleep comfortably. When she woke up, she would probably be revived with full health. After waking up, Jingwan was indeed revived with full health. However, her mood was actually not so good. After waking up in their own territory, they saw a weak and soft girl with timid eyes who seemed to be frightened by the slightest movement. You just looked at her and she looked like she was about to cry. There was probably no creature in the world more annoying than this. Cousin. She looked at you with watery eyes. Which family did this strange relative come out of? Jingwan sat down and looked at the maid beside her. What's going on? Miss, this cousin is the child of your aunt's family. They just came to the capital and haven't settled down yet. For the time being, they are guests in the Fu. Qing Zhu replied. When Jingwan was resting, the maids naturally had to find out what had happened during her absence. Jingwan had only seen the so-called aunt once when she was young. However, it left a deep impression on her because Jingwan lowered her head and took a sip of tea. She hadn't seen this cousin even once. She didn't know that she was a real little white flower with a black heart. I should be the one to see aunt and cousin. No, no. The little white flower's face was red and she looked like she was about to cry. I'm a little tired now. I'll go see aunt later. Cousin, you can go back first. Jingwan directly asked her to leave. The little white flower was even more anxious. Cousin. She saw the coldness on Jingwan's face and knew what was good for her. Then I'll go back first. When she turned around, the golden beads slid down her palm-sized face. Jingwan's face was cold. People like her only had 2 words left in her heart. Damn it. If she walked out looking like this, people would most likely think that she was severely bullied by Jingwan. If she wasn't black-hearted, then she was naturally black-hearted. It would be strange if people liked this kind of person. And people who liked this kind of person must have holes in their brains. Every hole was filled with water. Jingwan wasn't the only one who was black-hearted. Everyone around her was black-hearted. Wasn't that clearly tarnishing the girl's reputation? This was intolerable. Jingwan waved her hand. This kind of person will only cry harder if you do anything to her. Don't worry about it. Those who were fooled by this kind of person were pure idiots. There was no need to argue with an idiot. Who came to aunt's house? Just this girl, your aunt, uncle and their child. Oh right, there's also your aunt's younger sister-in-law. That person's age is similar to this girl. Qing Zhu said. Similar to her niece's age. Then she must have had a daughter at an old age. She just didn't know if she was born from a second wife like Ruan Fengfei or an old clam giving birth to a pearl. It was unlikely that she was a concubine's daughter. Her uncle was the eldest son. No matter how much his father doted on a concubine's younger sister, there was no reason for him to keep her by his side. Jingwan saw Qing Zhu's strange expression. Why? Is there something wrong? Miss, your aunt's younger sister-in-law is short-sighted. I heard that she has only been in the Luo family for a few days, but she has already taken away a lot of things from Madam. Moreover, as soon as we entered the courtyard, she went to third young master's courtyard. Jingwan sneered. In the Luo family, who else could it be but her sister-in-law? She had already inquired about it. However, if it was her sister-in-law who could take things away from her mother so easily, it wouldn't be so easy for her sister-in-law. Alright, there's one more thing. Hong Lian has also become a bed warmer. Hearing this, Jingwan's face turned stern and she directly smashed the cup. This was the first time that Jingwan had smashed something since she was born. It could be seen that she was really angry. Hong Lian was one of the handmaidens that Duchess Ding had prepared for her third brother. Together with Lu Yi, she had asked her to be a servant girl to burn the fire and clean the courtyard. Now, after only 2 months, she had actually climbed into her father's bed. She was indeed too benevolent. Help me dress up. Jingwan changed her clothes and dressed up meticulously. That's right, she was preparing to step on someone. When she went to Luo Mei residence, Jingwan was still outside the door. The servant girl guarding the door was about to go in and report, but she stopped her. Younger sister, I'm not criticizing you, but our family's servant girl Lien was born delicate and weak. How could my niece have the heart to bully her? In terms of seniority, Lien is her older cousin. Moreover, in the future, they will be living under the same roof. She's like this, like this. She had been wiping her tears as she spoke, but now she was sobbing uncontrollably. Mother, younger cousin didn't. A certain girl called Lien also sobbed weakly. Jingwan didn't feel anything about this scene, but the words, living under the same roof, spun on the tip of her tongue. Older sister, Lien grew up in the palm of my hand. In my eyes, she's just like my own daughter. How can she be Jingbua's concubine? Madame Zhang said weakly with a troubled expression. Our Lien brings fortune to her husband and family. She can marry into any family. Older sister, don't you want to keep the goodies within the family? I also know that you treat her as your own daughter, so you're assured to marry her to Jingbua. Speaking of which, Jingbua is just a virgin now. Lien has indeed suffered. Since younger sister also thinks so, why don't you promote Lien to a second wife? Although her status is a little lower, younger sister and Jingbua definitely won't be lacking in anything. Madame Zhang was speechless. She looked at her daughter-in-law who was sitting quietly and felt very sorry for her. However, she really wasn't good at facing this kind of situation. Didn't she already send someone to call Jingbua? Why wasn't he here yet? Younger sister, why are you standing at the door and not going in? Jingwan turned around. Her father and brother were together. Her gaze swept over them indifferently. Father, third brother, I was just about to go in. It's good that you're here. Everything could be resolved at the same time. Luo Rongyan felt that his daughter's gaze was a little frightening. However, when he thought about how he had slept with her maidservant in her courtyard, his old face turned slightly red. He clearly knew that she hated concubines the most, but this time, he actually touched her head. It seemed that any reaction from her was not surprising. He subconsciously revealed a fawning smile. His appearance was not bad. He had a clear temperament and the lethality of his smile was not small. Unfortunately, Jingwan was indifferent. Now, she even had a bad impression of her father. She even stepped into the room ahead of them. She clearly saw her mother breathe a sigh of relief. The pair of mother and daughter with red eyes had a bit of shyness on their faces. There was also a girl sitting at the side peacefully stroking her belly. When she saw Jingwan come in, she raised her head and chuckled. There was also a girl whose eyes were restless and itching to stick to her body. Jingwan just stood there. She didn't even greet them. Her gaze fell on a maidservant with a woman's hair in a bun. Her eyes were like small hooks, but at this moment, there was a bit of fear in them. Servants, drag this lowly maidservant out and beat her 50 times. If she dies, it will naturally be over. If she doesn't die, she will be sold as a guilty slave. It was the first time Jingwan gave such a command that could take someone's life. https://www.beacon.com/11/11807/6653271. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.beacon.com. Beacon.com Mobile Edition Reading Website: beacon.com. Chapter 215. But it was a pity that Jingwan's words were still very effective even in Falling Plum House. Seeing the determination in Jingwan's eyes that left no room for negotiation, Hong Lian also knew that begging her was useless. She rolled and crawled to Luo Rongyan's feet. "Second master, save this servant." "Ah. Miss wants to beat this servant to death. In any case, this servant is your person. Miss is completely not putting you in her eyes, second master, second master." She dared to drive a wedge between them even at the brink of death, and did it so brazenly. But did he care? Of course not. Sun Yijia seemed to have just discovered Hong Lian's existence and seemed to have finally recognized her. Even if someone forced her husband to be a concubine, she would not be affected at all because she knew what the final result would be. But now, she was strangely angry. Her face was frosty. She was not only targeting Hong Lian, but also her mother. What kind of mentality did she have at that time to choose such a person for her? Even under normal circumstances, as long as it was for her daughter's good, she would never choose such a person, right? Sun Yijia took a breath and calmed down her emotions. That person, she should not think about it. Compared to her fifth brother, she was already much luckier. Not only because she married the person she liked and the entire in-laws treated her very well, and would continue to be good. Because she was a married daughter, she could not see her and not face her. No one would say that she was unfilial, but her fifth brother could not. Sun Yijia lowered her eyes again. The contracts of the two servant girls were given to Wan Mimi and let Wan Mimi handle it. A girl dealing with her father's bed warmer, if word got out, her reputation would be greatly affected. Moreover, there were outsiders present. But so what? For an unmarried girl, the most important thing was to have a good husband's family. Wan Mimi did not have this concern. Jin Qin Wang, that person, would support Wan Mimi to the end. Sun Yijia had this intuition. Luo Rongyan was now very embarrassed. With his upbringing, he could not kick away the woman hugging his leg. Wan. Jingwan revealed a cold smile. Why? Does father feel sorry for her and want to protect her? Luo Rongyan looked at Jingwan in silence. His relationship with his daughter was getting worse and worse. That feeling was really... Even though he knew where the problem was, he still wanted to work hard to change it. He was now working hard at the Ministry of Revenue. He had not been to his concubine's room, but an accident like Red Lotus appeared out of nowhere. He originally thought that since she was a member of his daughter's courtyard and his wife was so soft-hearted, he wanted to wait for his daughter to come back and deal with it. His wife could be said to be obedient to his daughter. But now, it seemed that he should have dealt with it earlier. Wan, you're thinking too much. What are you waiting for? Take him away. Red Lotus was forcibly dragged away by the two old maids who did rough work. Without this protective umbrella, Red Lotus seemed to be grasping at the last life-saving straw, which was almost at the level of a true saint, Madame Zhang. Madam, save me. This servant will serve you like an ox or a horse. Madame Zhang's eyes flashed, but when her daughter looked over, Madame Zhang moved her lips and did not say a word. Her daughter was so angry because she wanted to protect her. If she stood on the opposite side of her, wouldn't she not know what was good for her? Moreover, she always felt that if she spoke now, her daughter would probably ignore her in the future. She knew that she was not a qualified mother and could not help her child, so she could only strive to not be a burden. You probably won't be able to find the person who will save you. Jingwan looked at Red Lotus, who was clinging to the doorframe, and said coldly. Jingwan was not interested in finding out what method she had used to climb into the bed. It was nothing more than that. She did not suspect that her father had taken the initiative to do it. He would not lay his hands on the people around his children. He still had this bit of moral integrity. Hong Lian's fear was mixed with overwhelming hatred. She cursed out loud, saying things like hypocrites, viciousness, thieves, prostitutes, and so on. Then, she was gagged and beaten viciously in the courtyard outside. Jingwan watched the whole process and saw Red Lotus's vicious eyes. She also saw the pain in Red Lotus's face during the beating. Although her mouth was gagged, anyone could feel that Red Lotus only had one breath left in her. Whether she could survive was not within Jingwan's range of concern. After dealing with Red Lotus, Jingwan's gaze fell on her aunt and the others. They seemed to be frightened. In the summer palace in Chengde, a girl from Marquis Chongping's estate wanted to be third brother's concubine. I was not willing. That girl lost half her life and probably will not be able to get married for the rest of her life. Her father, Marquis Chongping, also gave his title to someone else. Jingwan said calmly. Although what she said was the truth, the meaning completely changed. She became the main culprit. If you are willing to lower yourself to become a concubine, then don't blame others for looking down on you. Outsiders aside, I don't care about people from other branches of the family. Let's talk about the second branch of the Luo family. Who dares to send a girl here to be a concubine? Let's sever the relationship first, then sign the slave contract. The first day that person enters, the next day, I will return him a corpse. You child, you child. Madame Gu pointed at Jingwan with trembling fingers. But in the face of Jingwan's indifference, she knew that her previous methods would not work. So, she pointed the finger at Madame Gu. As she spoke, she wiped away her tears. Younger sister, how can you teach such a good girl to be like this? A girl's 3 obediences and 4 virtues. Aunt, don't say such things. I was raised by grandmother. She is very satisfied with me. Are you questioning my grandmother? This is the Luo family. The head of the family is the minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel Affairs. Grandmother is not in charge of the family affairs, but no one dares to disobey her. You are just a relative of the Luo family. She is unhappy and drives you out. Is it you or her who is ashamed? Madame Gu's face turned pale. She did not dare to continue scolding her on this point. Also, don't cry. No one here can be appeased by tears and weakness. My father is not either. You don't know how ugly you are like this. You. Madame Gu became more and more agitated as if she had been touched. You resent my mother for robbing you of your marriage. It has been almost 20 years, but you still can't forget my father. Tell me, what will happen to you if uncle knows? Jingwan smiled, but her eyes were cold. She continued to scold her. The people in the room were very surprised. They looked at Madame Gu in disbelief. However, Luo Rongyen's expression was a little subtle. You are a girl. How can you make up such a story? You are really. Madame Gu said harshly. Her face became more and more pale. She seemed to have forgotten to continue crying. I am sorry. When you came to Qi and Mansion and stopped my father to talk about your feelings, I happened to hear it clearly and saw it clearly. Do you want to know what I saw? Shut up, shut up. Because of this, even if I have only seen you once, I have a deep impression of you. Fortunately, my father is a gentleman. Otherwise, Jingwan's expression became indifferent, but it was more uncomfortable than direct ridicule. Everyone looked at Madame Gu as if they were looking at a dirty thing. It made her want to tear Jingwan apart. Sharp-tongued, disrespectful to elders, mean and insidious. Well, when we are out of the Luo family, you can spread whatever you want. If I frown, I will not be surnamed Luo. Aunt, I will give you one last advice. Don't covet what you shouldn't covet. Know your place. The Luo family will lend you a courtyard to live in. Otherwise, get out of here as soon as possible. Jingwan crudely peeled off the skin on her face and left her some leeway. As a result, some people were like cockroaches, jumping around and disgusting. When faced with such a weirdo, it was best to make her not dare to do anything. Madame Gu looked like she was about to faint. Her eyes flickered as she glanced at Luo Rongyan. It seemed that she still hoped that he would speak up for her and teach this bastard who humiliated her a lesson. Unfortunately, Luo Rongyan's attention was on Jingwan at this moment. In fact, he was not the least bit proud of being remembered by his aunt. Instead, he felt disgusted. If he could avoid it, he would avoid it as much as possible. However, there was someone who was not sensible and went to the Falling Plum House all day long. She was picky. She said this kind of food was not delicious, but he saw her eat it all. She said this kind of food was not good, but her eyes were engraved with greed. She could not wait to take everything for herself. What's more, she said that her sister did not do well and did not do anything right. If it were her, she would do so and so. She almost regarded herself as the hostess of the Falling Plum House. The most disgusting thing was that she pretended to be shy and weak in front of him and cried at the slightest thing. And the daughter she taught. Madame Gu looked at her sister blankly. She was probably shocked and could not come back to her senses for a long time. Mother. Ah? Wan, are you talking to me? Madame Gu came back to her senses and immediately put her sister and whatever aside. She felt that her daughter was in a bad mood today and had a bad temper, so she was a little cautious. In the future, if you meet people like Red Lotus again, directly kill them. Jingwan was unprecedentedly cold at this moment. How can that be? That's a human life. That's the person who stole your husband. Jingwan interrupted her expressionlessly. But, Madame Gu fiddled with the handkerchief in her hand and lowered her head. Her eyes were slightly red. Shouldn't a woman regard her husband as her sky and be virtuous and virtuous? According to what you said, there should be a sentence of, to help the husband and teach the children. Since you only do half of it and only think about him and throw the children aside, why can't you be more ruthless and thorough? Madame Gu was very helpless in the face of Jingwan's question. Things were completely out of her control. She was a little absent-minded and seemed to be muttering to herself, "Your father cares about me. Other people are just... Because I have you in my heart, I don't care about him having other people? Mother, do you know that I care about you the most and that I only have you in my heart and that other people are just playthings? That's the most disgusting thing. It's not even as good as a husband and wife who appear to be united but are actually divided. In fact, sometimes I really wonder if you really love Father with all your heart. If you really love him, then that lowly servant climbed into his bed and you can actually stay by his side like nothing happened. Don't you feel uncomfortable? He is surrounded by beautiful concubines and you can be virtuous and magnanimous to take care of them? If you don't care, then you won't be jealous and be virtuous." Sometimes, Jingwan really felt that her mother was a weirdo among weirdos. She really wanted to pry open her head and see what she was thinking. Sometimes, it really made people's worldview shatter. Madame Gu looked at Jingwan in a daze. She didn't know why her daughter was so angry today. Wan, it's wrong for you to think like that. It's wrong, especially when your future husband is a Qinhuang. Enough, don't use your methods to lecture me. You haven't taught me anything since I was young, so please continue to maintain it now. Since you are willing to be like this, why should I meddle in other people's business? Jingwan sneered. If you feel that I'm wrong, then you firmly believe that you are right. Then, continue to be, bitch. In the end, she didn't say the last word. In the past, she felt that her mother's personality was weak and that she was a saint. She also thought that her mother's attitude towards the concubines was just that she had been brainwashed by the current dogma. These were all left to her. She wasn't a real child and didn't need her mother's care. But her mother's attitude towards Hong Lian made Jingwan unable to control her emotions and directly exploded. Jingwan glanced at the other three people. What was the big deal about a servant who climbed into the bed? Another one was a married woman who was coveting her husband, and she was even his sister. The other party even had the idea of giving her daughter to her son as a concubine. She clearly wanted to climb up the social ladder, yet she still belittled her son. She even said that it was for her own good. How could she face such a person calmly and not beat her up immediately? Her mother was indeed a deity that she couldn't understand. She could even hesitate to beat someone who might not appear again in the future. Then, she probably wouldn't do something like kicking her biological sister out of the house. Aunt, I hate this kind of person the most when you act pitiful and aggrieved. If you want to stay in the Luo family, stop acting like a ghost, or never appear in front of me. Other things aside, if I want to kick you out, it's just a matter of a word. Jing Wan didn't want to stay here any longer. She took one last look at Madame Zhang and then looked away. If you want to live like this, that's your own business. Don't harm my brother and sister-in-law. If you are soft-hearted and agree to be a concubine, don't blame me for falling out with you and not recognizing you as my mother. Sister-in-law, I have something to discuss with grandmother. Will you come with me? Sun Yijia looked at Jing Wan with some worry, but didn't say anything. She stood up. Okay. Mother, daughter-in-law will take her leave now. She turned around and bowed to Luo Rongyan. It was the first time that Jing Wan did such a rude thing. She directly walked around her father and left. Luo Jingbua didn't know about the matter of concubines, but he could roughly guess. Wasn't this a trap? He had to leave this place quickly. He attentively supported Sun Yijia. Sun will also take his leave. The husband and wife hurriedly followed out. Luo Rongyan stood there in a daze. His daughter had expected better from his wife, but she seemed to have completely ignored him. He always knew that his daughter didn't like concubines. He used to think that it was because of her mother, but later he knew that was only part of the reason. She hated these things from the bottom of her heart. He used to think that the relationship between father and daughter was good. After all, other people couldn't affect their blood relationship. It turned out that was not the case. Now it had turned into disgust. He always thought that his wife and concubines were harmonious, and he didn't have many children. Not to mention the younger ones, his eldest son and eldest daughter were extremely outstanding. He lived a carefree life, but he could get things that others couldn't even get. He was proud of himself and even showed off to some friends. But now it seemed that he was actually ridiculous, a failure, and incompetent. Perhaps he was the kind of person that his daughter despised the most. Luo Rongyan came back to his senses and saw his wife crying silently. He knew that his daughter's ruthless words had hurt her. He knew that she loved him. There was no doubt about it. She didn't show much jealousy before, so he took it for granted. Thinking about his daughter's words, he suddenly felt that it was very abnormal. Aunt, please leave. In the future. We are relatives. Don't do unnecessary things to wear away our feelings. In the Luo family, mother loves Wan Wan the most. If you really make her unhappy, mother will stand up for you without saying a word. How much do you think you are in my mother's eyes? Moreover, father respects mother. Mother has a great influence on father. Similarly, Wan Wan is father's favorite grandson. As long as one was not stupid, who would not understand the meaning of these words? It was calmly stating a fact, but also a warning and a threat. She and her husband had brought their child and a sister-in-law to the capital. Could it be that they had traveled thousands of miles just to come here and have fun? Of course not. When the Zhang family and Luo Peishan formed a marriage alliance, Father Zhang and Luo Peishan were on equal footing. However, Father Zhang was only a fourth-rank official at the time of his death. His descendants were also mediocre. Luo Peishan was a first-rank official at the moment of his death. He was the head of the 6 ministries, the Minister of Personnel Affairs. He was extremely prominent. She should have a share of such wealth and honor. However, she should have been the one to discuss the marriage, but her sister took it away from her. How could he not be angry? You. Her voice was choked with sobs, and her eyes were full of pain. Aunt, don't be so pretentious. I chose the marriage myself. Luo Rongyan said coldly, Wan Wan hates you. I hate you too. You're so pretentious, and you're already so old. Luo Rongyen was not a man who had tender feelings for the fairer sex. If she cried too much, he would feel unlucky. If you were stabbed by an ordinary person, you would probably get hurt and bleed. However, if you were stabbed by someone you cared about or even adored, it would be a direct attack to your heart. It would be so painful that you would wish you were dead. Sun Yijia held Jingwan's arm and walked quietly in front. Luo Jingbo followed behind. They knew that Jingwan was in a bad mood. Thinking about it, it was indeed quite infuriating. When they were about to reach the main courtyard, Sun Yijia finally patted her hand and said, "Sister Wan, don't worry. Mother still has me. Moreover, I'm only a daughter-in-law. Although I have my concerns, some things are easier to handle." Jingwan smiled. "Thank you, sister-in-law." She was her mother after all. She had stayed in her mother's womb before and knew the pain she went through during childbirth. Speaking of which, they only had different values in life. There was no other conflict. Although her mother was not a qualified mother, she still loved her child. She should not force her own thoughts on others. She did not listen to her mother's words. Naturally, her mother did not need to accept her thoughts. Everyone had their own way of living. Along the way, Jingwan had thought about it very clearly. If she could not bear it, the best way was to stay away. Out of sight, out of mind. In the future, it would probably be like this. When Jingwan and the others arrived at the main courtyard, Madame Luo had also taken a nap and had just woken up. "Why are you here now?" Then, she realized that something was wrong with Jingwan. Others might not be able to tell, but she knew Jingwan too well. "What's the matter?" Sun Yijia, on the other hand, did not hesitate to complain. Madame Luo had already completely ignored her daughter-in-law. "Why do you care about her? Just do what your daughter should do. As for the rest, whether it's pain or happiness, it's her own business. As the saying goes, people with different principles cannot make plans together." "Grandmother, I'm fine. This is the last time." Jingwan smiled and said, "By the way, grandmother, I'm going to have my coming-of-age ceremony after the Mid-Autumn Festival. There are many related matters that I'll have to trouble grandmother with." "You're going to have your coming-of-age ceremony after the Mid-Autumn Festival?" Madame Luo looked at Jingwan. "I thought you would have to wait until next spring, but it doesn't matter if it's a little earlier. This is a big day. Grandmother will make it grand for you." Jingwan felt as if she had been seen through by her grandmother, and her face turned slightly red. "Thank you, grandmother. As long as grandmother is alive, there's nothing else to think about other than you." Jingwan's eyes were slightly red, but she smiled and said, "Grandmother, if grandfather heard this, wouldn't he be jealous?" "Let him be." Madame Luo waved her hand nonchalantly, as if in her eyes, that old man was really worthless. The three of them spent time at Madame Luo's place until it was time for dinner. The Gu family, who were staying as guests in the Luo family, also formally kowtowed to the two elders with the highest status. Among the younger generation of the Gu family, besides Gu Lien there was also a girl and 3 boys. Jingwan was not interested in whether they were legitimate or not. It had nothing to do with her. As long as they didn't provoke her, they would naturally live in peace. She had made it so obvious that she believed that no one would be stupid enough to annoy her. She just didn't know if this uncle already knew what she said. At that time, he had a younger sister by his side. As a younger sister, if she knew that her sister-in-law was thinking about another man, she would definitely be very angry. At that time, this girl didn't have any reaction. She was such a shallow person. Therefore, if she didn't tell her biological brother, it was more likely that he would use this as leverage to blackmail her sister-in-law for more benefits. Of course, it didn't rule out the possibility that she would tell the truth. If this man wanted to use the Luo family, he would naturally endure it. After all, she was just thinking about him in her heart and didn't make him wear a green hat. The 2 elders gave them greeting gifts respectively. However, Madame Luo was quite cold to Mrs. Gu and Mrs. Zhang. Mrs. Gu and Mrs. Zhang's expression was a little stiff. Now, they really didn't dare to go to Jingwan's side. If they were really kicked out, they wouldn't be able to establish a foothold in the capital. It hadn't been long since they came to the capital. It was so prosperous and extravagant. How could she bear to leave? Dinner was in the main courtyard. The women's table was separated. After dinner, they were not in a hurry to leave. They moved to the side hall and the servants prepared tea. Madame Luo first asked about little Mrs. Wang and the child. When Mrs. Wang asked if she wanted to take the child over for her to see, Madame Luo said that she would go to see the child tomorrow. The child was still young. It would be easy to scare the child if she carried him here and there. Then she casually asked about other things in the family. Mrs. Wang had been in charge of the household for many years. Naturally, there wouldn't be any mistakes in these aspects. But Mrs. Luo didn't ask much, so Mrs. Wang roughly told her everything. All the things for the Mid-Autumn Festival were ready. Madame Luo nodded and said, Wan's adulthood ceremony will be held after the Mid-Autumn Festival. My eldest daughter-in-law, please take care of it. Mrs. Wang readily agreed and said that she would do it well. She said with a smile, at that time, the guest of honor will definitely be Great Elder Princess. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653274. HTML Please click here to report, registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com Bicken.com Mobile Edition website. Bicken.com. Chapter 216. Great Elder Princess was Jingwan's foster mother. Her status was very noble and she was talented. Naturally, she was the best candidate for Jingwan's hairpin ceremony. If someone else was chosen instead of her, Great Elder Princess would probably be unhappy, so there was no need to worry that she would disagree. Madame Luo nodded in agreement and looked sideways at Jingwan, who was sitting beside her. Remember to pay respects to Great Elder Princess. Jingwan nodded with a smile and said, I'll pay respects to my foster mother when the date is chosen. Although she would officially send her resignation 3 days before the hairpin ceremony, it was necessary to inform her in advance. The secretary and the counselor can make the decision by Wan. Jingwan was very clear about the agenda of the hairpin ceremony. She had seen a lot of it when she was in Qi and Mansion and also participated in it as a counselor. Grandma, will the secretary choose 1 or 3 people? Madame Luo laughed and said, How can Wan ask such a silly question? Jingwan silently closed her mouth. She was indeed silly. If one's status was not high enough, it would be pretentious. But if one's status was high enough, it was natural for him to do it. If he didn't do it, others would think that he was unworthy and looked down upon. Jingwan was now in the state of frugality. However, it was quite difficult to choose. It was not that there were few people. On the contrary, among the many noble ladies in the capital city, Jingwan was definitely the first one. Many people would rush to attend her hairpin ceremony as the main person. After all, there would be many important guests present. It would be of great benefit if they could show their faces and be known by more nobles. The princesses of Qi Yuan were still worried about marriage. Their husbands were basically invisible. If they were favored, they would be fine. If they were not, they would probably disappear in a corner after marriage. However, it would be different if they had a good friend with a powerful background. Even if they were married, they could show their existence from time to time. Among other things, if they could get Great Elder Princess's approval, they would definitely feel much better. Therefore, if Jingwan wanted to be extravagant, she could easily set up a group of princesses. Of course, Jingwan would not do such a thing. She was not familiar with those princesses. Praises were usually sisters or good friends and were usually unmarried. Jingwan already had an idea of who to choose. Zhou Shuang and Yuan Chao Chao would choose one. As for Jingwan did not know about other places, but in Qi Yuan, they would usually choose a young married woman who had not been married for long. In reality, this should be chosen by Jingwan's mother, Zhongshi, or else old Madame Luo could also choose. At this time, Mrs. Zhang's heart was actually very sad. Her daughter was celebrating such an important day, but she had nothing to do. She also knew that she didn't have much ability, and if she wasn't careful, things might go wrong. However, she didn't receive any news about this matter before. Originally, she should have been the first to know, but she made her daughter sad. Not only could she not help her, but she also wanted her to protect her. In this way, even if she was ignored, she couldn't blame her for anything. Mrs. Zhang felt that something was wrong with the corners of her eyes, so she hurriedly touched her temples to cover it up. She put on a smile. At this time, she couldn't cry. It was okay that she couldn't help her daughter, but she couldn't embarrass her and be a hindrance. Coming of age was indeed very important for a girl. Other people also joined in, and the atmosphere was quite lively. However, several people of the Gu family had a strange light in their eyes. When they were calculating something, they couldn't help but feel scared. Although they had been in the Luo family for a few days and inquired about some things, they didn't know that the third miss was so amazing. Not only was she doted on by the two elders of the Luo family, but she even had the foster mother of Great Elder Princess and was the future princess. They didn't even dare to imagine that she was so glorious and illustrious. Before they came to the capital city, the most senior official's wife they could meet was just a fourth-level official. At that time, Mrs. Zhang showed off a lot with the excuse that her sister's father-in-law was a first-level official. Because of this, she squeezed into the circle that she couldn't enter before, and others still flattered her. If her father-in-law was a first-level official, in fact, she would be more powerful than before. She stopped breathing for a moment, and her heart seemed to be gnawed by thousands of insects. She didn't know whether it was intentional or not, but she met Jingwan's eyes. Jingwan also said that the girl of the Lord Protector's manner was just. If you offended her, you probably wouldn't have a good end. Her heart couldn't stop beating wildly. Fortunately, there was still the relationship of relatives. But with such a confusing identity, as long as she leaked something through her fingers, it would be enough. After about an hour, they dispersed. As for the other side, Luo Shongshu had left for more than 2 months, so he naturally had a lot to talk with his descendants. Originally, they had nothing to do with the children under the age of 16, but this time, all the children who had been enlightened stayed. It could be seen that Luo Shongshu really didn't mean to let them go at all. 2 days later, the coming-of-age ceremony was held. Jingwan didn't know that they were so serious just to choose the date of the coming-of-age ceremony. But they were busy for her sake, so Jingwan was grateful. It should be known that many unfavored girls had their coming-of-age ceremony in a hurry, and even some people didn't have such a solemn ceremony at all. For girls at present, the coming-of-age ceremony played an important role in motivating and encouraging them. Therefore, whether the family cared about it or not, it would have an immeasurable impact on them. The final date was September 6th, which was suitable for everything. The next day, Jingwan visited Great Elder Princess's manor and told her at once, which was also a show of respect to Great Elder Princess. For Jingwan, she could visit Great Elder Princess's mansion at any time, and there was no need to pay a formal visit. Every time Jingwan visited, Jingwan was the happiest one. As they got along for a long time, Jingwan liked this little girl more and more. "What are you here for today?" Great Elder Princess asked with a smile, drinking the flower tea sent by Jingwan. "What are you talking about, mother? Can't I come for no reason?" "I don't know. I just met you a day or two before I left the summer palace of Chengde. If there is nothing, you won't come so soon." Great Elder Princess was not complaining, nor did she blame Jingwan. Great Elder Princess's manor was not involved in the affairs of the imperial court, but Luo Peishan had real power. Even though Jingwan was Great Elder Princess's adopted daughter, she couldn't visit often because of this relationship. Otherwise, it would definitely arouse suspicion, which was not good for both families. "Well, my family is going to hold the coming-of-age ceremony for me on September 6th, and we want to invite you to be the guest of honor. I wonder if you—" Before Jingwan finished her words, Great Elder Princess waved her hand to interrupt her. You are going to hold the coming-of-age ceremony, so of course I will be the guest of honor. Do you want to invite someone else? Great Elder Princess looked at Jingwan as if she would drive her out if she had such an idea. Of course I thought of you first. Didn't I set the date yesterday and come today? Great Elder Princess gave her a look of, you know what you are doing. She didn't ask her how she could hold the coming-of-age ceremony in advance. Jingwan spent more than half a day in Great Elder Princess's manor. When she left, she agreed to worship the moon with Wangzhu Yuyao on the Mid-Autumn Festival. In the afternoon, Jingwan went to the Yuan family. They hadn't seen each other for more than 2 months. Yuan Xiaoqiao pounced on Jingwan like a crazy girl and hugged her directly. She really didn't have any manners at all. However, it didn't matter since they were at home. No one would criticize her. But it was enough to show that her legs and feet were completely healed without any sequelae. Jingwan had no choice but to let go of her and go to pay respects to her aunt and Madame Dowager of the Yuan family. No matter what the reason was, the old madam was always kind and amiable towards Jingwan and seemed to like her a lot. Then she went to Yuan Xiaoqiao's courtyard. When she learned that Jingwan was going to hold the coming-of-age ceremony and needed a compliment, she directly waved her hand and gave it to Zhou Yingshuang. In order to make friends with my grandfather, many people have stepped on the threshold of my family. There are so many people who want to marry me. According to my mother and grandmother, there are many people who we didn't dare to dream of in the past. Now they are waiting for us to choose. I don't need to add to the limelight. When it came to her marriage, she was also careless. Although Yingshuang has been engaged, it's good to give her some confidence. You are the future wife of the prince. If her husband sees that you are on good terms with her, he will definitely be proud in the future. Well, it felt very good to be able to support others one day, although in essence, she was relying on others. Are you still going to Yingshuang's place? Let's go now. I want to take this opportunity to go out. My mother is very strict with me. Usually, she won't let me go out. If you are there, she will definitely agree. Yuan Xiaoqiao's temperament was relatively more outgoing. She would definitely feel uncomfortable being locked up at home. After asking for his aunt's opinion, Luo Ronghue agreed without hesitation. After leaving the door, Yuan Xiaoqiao complained to Jingwan, "You are my mother's daughter. I begged her for half a day, but it was not as effective as a word from you. Sorry, Qi'an Prefecture is very far from the capital. Even if my mother took me from someone else, it would not be your family," Jingwan said with a smile. Yuan Xiaoqiao directly rolled her eyes at Jingwan. When they arrived at the Zhou residence, they found that Zhou Yingshuang was embroidering her dowry. Has the wedding date been set? Before the new year? Jingwan asked. Zhou Yingshuang had a shy and sweet expression as she nodded, 10th of October. This speed seemed a bit fast. Jingwan thought that they would have to wait until next year. When she understood the purpose of Jingwan's visit and knew that Yuan Xiaoqiao did not hesitate to let her have him, she was grateful and naturally agreed. Thus, they spent another half a day at the Zhou residence. 2 days later, it was the 15th of August, the Mid-Autumn Festival. Lu Chengdi gave another long holiday. Other than those who had to stay in their positions, everyone else went home. He also said that there would only be a family banquet in the palace tonight. The officials would quickly go back to their own homes to reunite. The reunion banquet was held in the courtyard. When there was still more than 2 hours before nightfall, all kinds of lanterns were hung up. They were tied to bamboo poles with ropes, erected high on the roof eaves or balconies, or built into various shapes with small lanterns. The trees in the courtyard and the rockery were also decorated. https://www.beacon.com/11/11807/6653277. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.beacon.com. Biku Pavilion mobile reading website. Beacon.com. Chapter 218. The so-called tile tower lantern was a tall hollow tower made of bricks and tiles. Firewood was added to the fire and it was lit after the moon worship. The moon worship this time was naturally different from the moon worship at home. The scene was very grand and the venue was set in the square in front of Wandenghua. Wandenghua was the main building in the capital that hosted large-scale gatherings. It was 3 stories high and there were a total of 9,999 lanterns inside and outside the building. However, all the lanterns were lit only 2 or 3 times a year. There was still some distance to Wandenghua. Everyone got off the carriage and prepared to walk. Tonight, there was no need for servants to carry lanterns to lead the way. The place they were at was already brightly lit. The lanterns came from all directions and the small shadows gathered at their feet. Jingwan was amazed by such a scene. Qi and Prefecture also celebrated the festival, but it was still not as grand as this. It was only the Mid-Autumn Festival. She wondered how grand the Lantern Festival would be. A few older brothers went out as escorts. Speaking of which, the eldest sister-in-law, little Wang Shi, would only be out of confinement tomorrow. This was extremely fortunate. If the child was born a day earlier, it would be the Mid-Autumn Festival on July 15th. That would be terrible. It would be another kind of ghost child. In fact, when they went out, Jingwan wanted to let her eldest cousin brother and third brother stay at home to accompany her wife. However, the elders did not agree. Jingwan did not know what little Wang Shi was thinking. On the other hand, Sun Yijia was purely chasing Luo Jinghua out. She was fine at home with a large group of people accompanying her. It did not matter whether she was there or not. However, it was different when her younger brothers and sisters went out. They were not few in number, so how could there not be a few older brothers following them? Moreover, the few people from the Gu family also shamelessly followed them. However, Jingwan ignored them. That Miss Lian still wanted to be Luo Jinghua's concubine. Although Jingwan blocked her path rudely, when the girl saw her cousin, Luo Jinghua, although she did not say anything, she still looked like she was about to cry. Her expression was gloomy, as if she was looking at a heartless man in the carriage. Luo Jinghua met them 2 or 3 times. They had goosebumps all over their bodies and took a detour when they saw him. The brother and sister pair ignored them, so the other brothers and sisters of the Luo family naturally treated them as invisible people. Luo Jinghua walked beside Jingwan and told her about the various festivals in Beijing. Naturally, he was able to bring out a lot of interesting things. Jingwan was very happy to hear this. Originally, Jingwan was already engaged, so her protector should be a certain someone. It should be known that tonight was a good time to openly date. Unfortunately, the emperor had set up a family banquet. Even if he wanted to come out and compensate Jingwan, it was definitely not now. If Emperor Lu Chengdi had a stroke and did not let her go, and wanted to hold a small lantern festival in the palace, he would probably come out even earlier. According to a certain someone's character, if he wanted to use those boring things to trap him, it was better to wash up and sleep. It was easier to come out in dreams. Although there were a lot of people, because there were guards around the courtyard, the journey was very easy. There would definitely not be a crowded situation. Those commoners would also not come here. After all, this was a place where high officials and nobles parked their cars. If they squeezed in for no reason, they might be accused of having bad intentions. How wronged would that be? If they had nothing to do, they would generally not come here. This was also the first time Jingwan saw the 10,000 Lanterns Tower. At this moment, the lanterns inside and outside the tower were all lit up. It was brightly lit and looked like a big shining treasure. If one looked at it from afar, the effect would probably be even more realistic. At this moment, the incense table had already been set up and all the tributes were also on the table. Several towers had also been built around it. Not only were they hollow, but in order to conform to the meaning of unity, the towers were also left with round holes. It looked very artistic and beautiful. It was much more troublesome than making square holes. Jingwan only knew from her third brother's explanation that if one stood on the central axis of the lanterns and saw the moon hanging over the top of the lanterns, the moon worship would begin. Jingwan stood over to take a look and estimated that there was not much time left. I wonder which madam is in charge of the moon worship this year? It's the wife of the left assistant minister of the Ministry of Revenue. Jingwan listened from the side. She also knew from her third brother that there would be a different person in charge of the moon worship every year. The left assistant minister of the Ministry of Revenue was noble consort Sue's biological brother. The person in charge of the moon worship tonight was her sister-in-law. The left and right assistant ministers of the Ministry of Revenue were not on the same page. However, if the current Minister of Revenue stepped down, this position would most likely fall into the left assistant minister's hands. Prince Rue and the others had always been plotting. Perhaps it would happen in the next 1 or 2 years. Jingwan thought for a moment. It seemed that her father's name was in the Ministry of Revenue. Elder sister, elder sister. Just as Jingwan was a little distracted, Yu Yao rushed up from behind and hugged her. Jingwan pulled her and turned around. Yu Yao, you're here. Just you alone? Other than father and mother, everyone else in the family came out. I didn't want to stay with them, so I directly came here. Yu Yao said. Jingwan glanced at the group of servant girls and matrons who were closely following her. She was not worried that anything would happen to her. Although Yu Yao had spent more time with Jingwan, the age gap between the two of them was quite large. When there were children of the same age, Yu Yao was more likely to play with them. This allowed Yu Yao to get to know her 2 younger cousins. The 2 young ladies quickly chattered together. Not long after, Yuan Xiaoqiao and Zhou Yingshuang appeared together. There were also many other people who knew each other. They greeted each other. As time passed, more and more people gathered. Jingwan guessed that this place and this time should be the most crowded place and time tonight. A beautiful middle-aged woman arrived. The moon worship was about to officially begin. The seats in the middle were all empty. The servants and men of each family all retreated. Although the moon worship was entirely voluntary and there were no rules about who should stand where, there were unspoken rules everywhere. Those with lower backgrounds would consciously move back a little, and those girls from commoner families could only stand at the periphery. Jingwan directly led Yu Yao to the front. At this time, there was no need to be modest. Jingwan's aunt's younger sister-in-law subconsciously followed Jingwan. However, she was stopped by someone. Miss Gu, that's not a place for you to go. It's okay if you don't know the rules, but don't implicate the Luo family and make others say that they don't know the rules. The girl's eyes immediately turned red. However, she was not as innocent as the other mother and daughter. She did not really cry. However, the shame in her heart made her feel as if her internal organs were on fire. She kept feeling that the people around her were looking at her and pointing at her. This made her feel ashamed and angry. She was so ashamed that she did not dare to raise her head. The 5, 6, and 7 girls of the Luo family glanced at her. They did not even want to go to the front. Naturally, no one cared about this small episode. The entire moon worship process was similar to the one at home. It did not take long. After the moon worship, the crowd dispersed. They played, finished the lanterns, enjoyed the lanterns, and played games. Although they did not really play for the whole night, it was appropriate for them to play in the middle of the night. Yu Yao and the 2 girls of the Luo family who were slightly older than her got along well. They wanted to meet up and play together. Yu Yao had enough people and the Luo family could also spare some people. Therefore, there was no need to worry about their safety. They only needed to arrange a time and place to go home and let them go. Yuan Xiaoqiao excitedly pulled Jingwan and Zhou Yingshuang to play with the water lanterns. The river that passed through the city was just beside them. They did not need to go through Taiyuan. There were many river lanterns by the river. There were many styles and most of them were still lotus-shaped. Yuan Xiaoqiao bought a lot of them in one go. She said that everyone in the family would have one. Jingwan and Zhou Yingshuang did not know whether to laugh or cry. The river lanterns were wishing lanterns or praying lanterns. If a person wished or prayed for blessings, the gods would not be able to take care of it. If you wanted to release so many by yourself, it would be even more impossible to fulfill your wish. However, this was just for show. She wanted to express her wishes or write something unrealistic. Jingwan originally wanted to wait for her cousin Xiao Xiao to spend a lot of time writing something. In the end, she directly took out her pouch and took out a piece of paper that she had already prepared. She placed one in each of the water lanterns. Her movements were very nimble. Alright, this was not an impromptu idea at all. Jingwan only bought one lantern. After thinking for a bit, she wrote, "My family is safe and sound. What about this prince?" His words were so close to her ear that it scared Jingwan quite a bit. She turned her head to glare at the culprit who had suddenly appeared. She gritted her teeth and said, "Your Highness, people can scare people to death if they try to scare people." Li Hongyuan curled his lips into a smile. "It's this prince's fault. Next time, I'll definitely remind you earlier." The killing power of this bastard's smile was too great. Moreover, his face was so gentle. It was simply too frightening. That's why it was said that this person who looked good really had its benefits. Jingwan thought that she was also a common person. Li Hongyuan also took a lantern and quickly wrote a few words. Jingwan didn't go to look. Because of a certain person's appearance, the surroundings had become a bit strange. For example, Zhou Shuang and Yuan Xiao had become more restrained. Their smiles had stiffened a lot. At the same time, there were people who were secretly looking over here. Some recognized them, some didn't. In short, Jin Qin Wang, who had restrained his hostility, was very eye-catching. Jingwan inadvertently glanced at her aunt's sister-in-law, Miss Gu, who had been following her like a little tail after coming out. She was staring at a certain person in a daze. That expression was as if she had lost her soul. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653300. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, registration free. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bicken. Com mobile version reading website. Bicken.com. Chapter 219. The Scourge didn't have the slightest self-awareness of being a scourge. Other people's gazes would never affect him. Those who had the courage to come up to him were definitely not afraid of death. Thus, there was no need to be polite to this kind of person. Li Hongyuan gave his lotus lantern to Jingwan. "I'll play what you wrote." "You wrote everything about yourself, right?" Jingwan didn't reach out her hand. She just looked at him quietly. Li Hongyuan seemed to understand the meaning in her eyes. He nodded shamelessly. Wan doesn't have this prince in her heart. This prince can only let others know that you have this prince in your heart, and only this prince. Jingwan was extremely speechless. Even if this young lady fell in love with you in the future, you definitely wouldn't be the only one in my heart, let alone now. However, Jingwan had also seen his stubbornness in certain aspects. There was no use in being in a deadlock with him. It would probably only attract more people to watch. She took the lotus lantern from his hand. Why did Prince come out at this time? After asking, Jingwan realized that she had made a stupid mistake. "Prince, just pretend this subject didn't ask." A certain person originally wanted to say, "Does Wan really want to know?" His wife was so enthusiastic that he couldn't refuse. Alas, what a pity. How could he take back what he had said? However, Wan's skin was thin. If she really said something that she shouldn't say in public, she should be angry. "Let's go play the lantern." Jingwan glanced at her two good friends beside her. This young lady wasn't the kind of person who would abandon her best friends for a man. Li Hongyuan just followed her gaze and glanced. The two girls who were originally a little fascinated by the man suddenly felt their scalps go numb. It was likely that all the hair on their bodies stood up. This man really wouldn't become a good person. If they were charmed by him, they would die without a burial place. One told them to stay, the other told them to scram. Speaking of which, as good sisters, they naturally thought of each other in everything, so they squatted down and quickly scram. Jingwan glanced at the water lantern left behind by her cousin. She was really too disloyal. Why does she have to be that kind of person? So, she was indeed a scourge. It was fine if she was a scourge, but she was also a scourge. Jingwan carries 2 water lanterns to the riverside and steps on the stone stairs to the bottom. The water surface is only 1 finger lower than the stone stairs under her feet. She squats down and puts the water lanterns into the river. In the slight ripples of the river, the water lanterns float away slowly like the water lanterns put by others. The world of lights on the water, the world of lights under the water, and the stars on the water surface. Jingwan looks at them quietly, hoping that her family members are all well. Well, barely including the scourge beside her. Li Hongyuan stood beside Jingwan. She looked at the water lantern while he looked at her. To their left and right, there was no one more than 10 meters away from them. Even further away, there was clearly a crowd of people. For a moment, it was as if the two of them were the only ones left in the world, and the clamor around them seemed to have vanished without a trace. Sure enough, wherever she was, his heart would always be at peace. However, this peace did not last long. He lowered his head, so his vision was not wide. But even so, someone broke in. 2 steps away from Jingwan, he squatted down in what he thought was a graceful manner and placed the water lantern on the table. Then, he clasped his hands together as if he was praying sincerely. Throughout the whole process, his head was slightly lowered and the back of his neck was exposed. Under the light, she looks very white and weak, which makes people want to break her ***. Seeing that their master, who was originally in a good mood, is shrouded by hostility in an instant, Eunuch Mu and his guards want to jump into the river to commit suicide. But before that, they just want to kill the biggest culprit first. Are you blind or what? Can't you see that there are so many people and no one dares to go over? Do you think others can't see your intention? A bitch is a bitch. Eunuch Mu cursed in his heart. But what should he do now? He can't really drag her away in front of Miss Luo. But the most annoying thing is, why did they let her go? There are so many people, but no one wants to stop her? What if it was an assassin who wanted to assassinate him? What the hell were they doing? What the hell were they doing? Their faces are gloomy, and their hearts are irritable. After praying, Miss Gu turned around and looked at Jingwan, revealing a gentle smile. Jingwan wants to roll her eyes. Miss, if you want to look at the person next to you, just look at him. If you want to know him or hook up with him, just go to him. You want to look at him but can't bear to look at him. To be honest, you are really not good looking. Li Hongyuan reached out and pulled Jingwan up. Let's go. He doesn't want to be ruined by irrelevant people now. Jingwan nodded. If it was Yuan Xiaoqiao, Zhou Shuang and the others, Jingwan would be happy to leave this man aside. But now, she would rather stay with this living king of hell. Miss Gu, who had been completely ignored, was furious and unwilling to give up. She already knew that this man was most likely Luo Jingwan's fiancé. He had a distinguished status, power, and money. He was also very good-looking. He was simply her ideal husband. Even if he was someone else's fiancé, even if she could never become his official wife, she still did not want to give up just like that. She gritted her teeth and followed. But as the saying goes, dreams are plentiful, but reality is cruel. The guards, who have been tortured by their master's horrible eyes, said that if they let her get close, it will not be as simple as being punished when they go back. Eunuch Mu grabbed Miss Gu's arm tightly. His eyes really want to eat her alive. In fact, no one who follows a master like Li Hongyuan is pure. Even if Eunuch Mu has not been exposed to particularly bloody things, his bones have long been dyed black. Let go of me. Do you know who I am? Let me tell you. Eunuch Mu covered her mouth with his hand. Miss Luo has not gone far with his master. If she is alarmed, he will be in serious trouble. Throw her into the river. It's enough to keep her alive. Miss Gu widened her eyes in disbelief. Her mouth was moaning, but she couldn't break free at all. The guard next to her was not polite at all. He tore a piece of her dress and stuffed it into her mouth. She wanted to take the thing out of her mouth with her hands, but her hands were immediately broken. He grabbed her by the back of her neck and exerted force. She rolled down the stone stairs and fell into the water with a splash. She struggled in the water, but her hands were broken, so she couldn't climb up. After struggling for a long time, she found that the water was not deep, only up to her waist. However, her feet were crooked and she almost stepped on air. She was still in shock, and her mouth was still gagged. The pain in her arms was even more unbearable. Tears fell down, mixed with the water droplets rolling down from her hair, and she carefully moved inside. Just as she was about to call for help from the people on the shore, the guard came down. She retreated in fear, but the guard quickly reached out and grabbed her hair. He pushed her into the water, and after a while, he pulled her up again. After repeating this several times, Miss Gu no longer had the strength to struggle and was on the verge of death. The guard carried her up and threw her on the stone stairs. He clapped his hands and left. From beginning to end, there was not a trace of emotion on his face. The whole process was seen by many people on both sides of the river. These people included several of the Luo family's elder brothers. Some timid girls didn't dare to watch and hurriedly left. Although some were also afraid, they seemed to be very curious and stayed. Naturally, there were also those who watched in high spirits. But each of them had their own complicated emotions. Among these people, Luo Jingbu's relationship with her was the closest. But at this moment, his face was expressionless. Don't talk about sympathy or pity, his eyes were simply looking at a dead object. His younger sister didn't want a third person to come between them, so she should be the same. He naturally didn't have any good feelings towards these people who tried to get close to his future brother-in-law. Jingbu, let someone send her back. After all, she came from our family. If we let her die here, even if it was done by Jin Qinhuang's people, it will not be good for our family's reputation. Luo Jingde whispered. Luo Jingbu nodded his head indifferently. However, her entire body was drenched and she was half dead. She couldn't ask the servants to carry her back. That way, not only would her reputation be ruined, the Luo family would also be criticized by others. If that Miss Gu was Jingwan's tail, then her niece Gu Lien-er was Luo Jingbu's tail. Luo Jingbu tilted his head and saw Gu Lien-er's pale face. Her tears were like broken beads, completely uncontrollable. Seeing Luo Jingbu looking over, she seemed to have found her backbone. Biaoge. She pitifully wanted to rub against him. Take your servant girl and send her back. Jin Qinhuang's people did it. If she dies, she will die in vain. Also, you should learn from this. If you think about something you shouldn't think about, you will probably end up the same. Luo Jingbu clearly warned. Gu Lien-er might be a weak person, but she wasn't completely unable to understand human language. Her face was pale and she didn't dare to take a step closer. Luo Jingbu didn't care about her anymore. My younger brothers and sisters have run away. Let's go take a look. Luo Jingde and Luo Jingming nodded. Although they met every year, it was different every year. They were big men. It was enough to have their own manservants by their side. Watching them leave, Gu Lien-er bit her lip and looked at her aunt who was motionless on the stone stairs. She also wanted to ignore her, but she couldn't. Was she already dead? She didn't dare to be sure. Xinli was very scared. She glanced at the servant girl who was at a loss. Why don't you go down and see your daughter? Obviously, she was also scared to death, but the servant girl had to go. Trembling, she went down and reached out her trembling hand. She found that she was still breathing. It seemed that she had just fainted. She couldn't help but cry with joy. Still alive. Of course she was still alive. Since she said to leave her with one breath, she naturally wouldn't kill her. In any case, she was still a relative of Luo San Gunyong. It wasn't good to kill her. However, this lesson was enough. If there was a next time, there wouldn't be another chance. Gu Lien called her own servant girl to help. They helped her up and let the servant girl carry her. Step by step, they walked towards the place where the carriage was parked. Seeing the situation, those who didn't know were surprised. Did she fall into the river? Those who knew sneered. Jin Qin Wang's people held her down in the river, gagged her mouth and broke her hand. Jin Qin Wang took Luo San Gunyong to light the river lanterns. The two girls who were close to Luo San Gunyong all avoided them. She didn't even look at her own virtue. You didn't see her appearance at that time. It was simply too scary. Perhaps she thought that her beauty was unparalleled. Any man would be attracted. It's hard to say. They all say that Jin Qin Wang is walking the road of beauty and bones. That's not a joke. Jin Qin Wang was fond of beauty, but he had always been the one to choose. Those who threw themselves at him all didn't have a good ending. The bystanders looked at each other in dismay. They looked at the unconscious Miss Gu with pity, but more disdain. When the crowd had mostly dispersed, Yuan Qiao and Zhou Shuang reappeared by the river. They had seen the situation just now. At this moment, they looked at each other and didn't know what to say. After a moment of silence, Yuan Qiao suddenly laughed. "Ing Shuang, it's quiet here. Let's hurry and light the lanterns. Otherwise, there will be more people." She excitedly went to pick up a few river lanterns and called for the servant girl to help. At the place where Jingwan had placed the river lanterns, the place where Miss Gu had almost lost her life, Yuan Qiao put down the river lanterns one by one. She seemed to dislike them for moving too slowly and even used her hands to paddle the water. As for the river lantern hawkers who had never seen such a scene before, they were almost scared silly. They could only slow down on their own. As for the people who didn't know the situation, they were puzzled when they saw that there was a lot of space. However, because Yuan Qiao and Zhou Shuang were there, they didn't think much of it. They bought the river lanterns and went down. Jingwan strolled around beside Li Hongyuan. She looked around and felt the rich festive atmosphere. This was something that would never have happened in her previous life. Therefore, after so many years, Jingwan's love for the various festivals had never weakened. Moreover, the capital was very different from Qi'an Prefecture. The pavilion corridor built by the river had 9 bends and 18 bends. Lanterns of flowers, birds, fish, and insects were hung. Of course, there were also very square lanterns. The white paper was also painted with exquisite paintings. There were countless small games. Listening to the waves of cheers and applause, it was a lively and prosperous scene that belonged to this era. "Do you want it?" Li Hongyuan's voice softly sounded in her ear. Jingwan subconsciously rubbed her ear. She turned her head to look at him, then shifted her gaze to the high platform full of lanterns. The lanterns were obtained after 3 rounds. The final prize was hung in the middle of the platform. It was a colored glass lantern. It didn't have an ordinary appearance. It was a person standing on auspicious clouds and holding a jade rabbit. Although it was only half the height of a person, it was vivid and lifelike. Because of the light inside the lantern, it didn't appear frivolous. Instead, it seemed to have the aura of an immortal. This kind of craftsmanship was amazing. It was no wonder that there were so many people around. However, it seemed that there weren't many people who made it to the second round. "Wan, if you want it, I can take it." Jingwan tilted her head. "Troublesome, don't get so close to speak." Speaking with a normal tone was already breaking the rules. What was he trying to do by lowering his voice? "Take it." "How does Prince plan to take it?" "Forcefully take it." "If I forcefully take it and give it to you, won't people criticize you? If they scold Ben Wang, it doesn't matter." It was said that Jin Qin Wang had nothing good in his face. This knowledge was naturally included. However, Jingwan dared to conclude that it wasn't the case. Since he said it out loud, he would definitely be able to use conventional means to get it. If he really did that, the things that he deliberately concealed would be exposed. She shook her head. I just think it's very pretty. I don't want it. Li Hongyuan seemed to have seen through her thoughts. It doesn't matter. So what if something was exposed? I really don't want it, Jingwan said. Her eyes turned, and then she suddenly lowered her voice. Could it be that Prince wants me to face a beauty day and night? There was a smile in her eyes, and there was a bit of ridicule. Li Hongyuan's face immediately darkened. Jingwan covered her mouth and laughed very happily. To be able to make her laugh so happily, Li Hongyuan's expression eased and he reached out to touch her face. When Jingwan saw this, she immediately took a step back. Tonight, even if a man and woman walked together, there wouldn't be any gossip. But if they were too intimate, it definitely wouldn't do. Prince, let's go. Saying this, she took a few steps back with a smile on her face. Then she turned around and leisurely walked forward. When they walked far away, a person came out from behind the lampstand next to them. It was Sun Yilin. He didn't call his friends, and he wasn't with his brothers at home. There was only a manservant by his side. The manservant looked at him with some apprehension. He knew how deep his young master's feelings for Luo San Miss were. That kind of scene just now, for him, was like stabbing a knife into his heart. The smile on his face was getting less and less. Many times, to be silent from morning to night, it was impossible to say that he wasn't worried. Sun Yilin knew that he might meet Jingwan tonight. He also knew that Prince Jean might be with her, but he still came. He didn't go to the 10,000 Lanterns Tower during the moon worship. He wanted to try if he had that fate with her. After all, this neighborhood wasn't small. Even if he deliberately looked for her, he might not be able to find her. Facts proved that this fate still existed. Ignoring the pain from his heart, Sun Yilin turned his gaze to the lamp. After a moment, he walked over. Sun Yilin's appearance caused even louder cheers. Everyone had great expectations for him. In fact, Sun Yilin really didn't let them down. When it came to words, he had never lost. Others worked hard but couldn't even pass half of the first level, but he didn't stop to rest and passed 3 levels in a row. He often blurted it out without even thinking. Finally, holding the beauty lantern, he finally revealed his first smile tonight, causing many women in the boudoir to blush and their hearts to beat. In recent months, there had been no news of him. When they met again, he seemed to be even more attractive. Such a person, they didn't know what kind of woman could be worthy of him. However, Duchess Ding didn't seem to be a good mother-in-law. Sun Yilin left the high platform, gave the beauty lantern to the servant, and walked in the opposite direction from Jingwan. Young master, will you send this lantern to the Luo family tomorrow? Keep it. Whatever my little sister needs, she has her husband. The servant silently shut up. Jingwan stepped onto the stone bridge and looked at the lake not far away. Countless water lanterns passed under the bridge and all of them converged into the lake. It was as if the lake had merged with the stars in the sky. It was too beautiful to behold. Is this lake formed naturally? Jingwan asked curiously. No, it was dug by the great ancestor. Jingwan praised in her heart. Although the great ancestor was from a humble background, he was also very sentimental. The willows by the lake were rustling, the pavilions, and the lights were waning. It could be regarded as a dating spot. Don't ask why Jingwan only thought of this instead of drinking water, because there was no shortage of water in the capital. The river was convenient for many people, but this lake was purely superfluous. Those boats, are they pleasure boats? There were more than 10 boats on the lake. The worst of them had 2 floors. At this time, they were slowly wandering on the lake. They were also brightly lit and magnificent. Li Hongyuan glanced at Jingwan. It seemed that he didn't quite understand Jingwan's meaning. Yes. Which one is the Huai Qin pleasure boat? Jingwan was very curious. Wanwan, why do you ask this? Isn't it because the courtesan of the Huai Qin pleasure boat took a fancy to my third brother? Moreover, I heard that the Huai Qin pleasure boat is yours. The girls inside must be the ones you choose to see the guests? Jingwan looked at him. It seemed that she was purely curious, but also seemed to be teasing. Li Hongyuan's expression was a bit unpredictable. Who would tell this kind of thing to the girls in the back house? I not only heard it, but also wanted to see it. It was a pity pleasure boats and the like were all forbidden areas for girls. If they dared to try, their spittle could drown you to death. After the wedding, Ben Wong will take you there. With him taking her there, she couldn't go anywhere. Jingwan was surprised. Soon after, she smiled. This man was really... It's almost time. Let's go back. Li Hongyuan nodded his head in agreement. They didn't follow the original path and chose to go on the opposite side of the river. When they returned to the front of Wandenglu, the tile tower had already been completely burned up. It was like a pile of bonfires, but it was far more beautiful than bonfires. The tiles were burning red, and there was a kind of beauty like red jade in the fire. It far exceeded their original expectations. Meeting other Wang Ye and Wang Fei didn't seem to be strange. Rui Qin Wang invited Jin Qin Wang to have a drink, and Li Hongyuan agreed. He turned to Jingwan and said, "Go back early and rest. Your family still has work to do tomorrow." Jingwan nodded. Rather than chatting with Rui Qin Wang Fei, Jingwan was more willing to go back to sleep. So, without saying anything, she bid farewell to them and left under the escort of her maidservants. "Lao Lu, you're really serious now." Rui Qin Wang smiled warmly. Li Hongyuan had always been too lazy to pay attention to this kind of probing. Li Hongming was somewhat sincere to her. She was afraid that Su Guifei had told him everything. The son of a ghost? The country and the throne were all fought for with blood. When Jingwan returned to the carriage, it was almost time for the appointed time. After all, several of her younger brothers and sisters were still young. They couldn't play late, so she sat in the carriage and waited. Sure enough, it didn't take long for them to appear one after another. However, Yu Yao didn't want to go home. Acting spoiled and acting shamelessly, Jingwan was also helpless. She discussed with Yu Yao's wet nurse and sent someone to report to Great Princess Royal's Fu and bring her back to Luo family. Yu Yao was overjoyed. Soon after, she abandoned Jingwan and went to find two sisters to play, throwing them away after using them. Jingwan couldn't help but laugh and scold when she found that two people were missing. Where did they go? They already went back. Luo Jingbo said. Went back. Jingwan looked to the side. There was indeed one carriage missing, and the coachman also expressed his affirmation. Since that was the case, there was nothing to say. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653301 HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is exempted. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 220. However, not long after Jingwan and the rest returned to the Luo family, they heard that the Gu family's short-sighted girl was about to die. Jingwan was extremely shocked. She was still fine before. How long had it been, and she was about to die? Jingwan didn't doubt it. This was the Luo family. The doctor was the Luo family's official doctor. How could the Gu family feign illness and feign death under her nose? Furthermore, would her own family lie to her about this kind of thing? Therefore, it was definitely true. That aunt and niece pair came back early. It was very likely that something happened after she left. Jingwan pondered for a moment. That Miss Gu had just entered the capital. The people outside didn't have any enmity with her, so they wouldn't put her in a sack and beat her up. She also wouldn't have been raped and lost her chastity. Otherwise, when third brother said that she had already returned, he wouldn't have been so indifferent. The most likely thing was that she fell into the river. At this time, Catching a cold could cause death. Drowning could cause a lung infection, causing a high fever. Jingwan decided to go and take a look. It wasn't that she was concerned about the other party, but purely to know what happened. Just as she walked out of the courtyard, she ran into Luo Jinghua. Apparently, their destination was the same. Third brother, you should know what happened, right? Luo Jinghua frowned and hesitated for a moment. In the end, he still told her what happened. Jingwan's footsteps paused. All right, she really did fall into the water. But it wasn't an accident, it was man-made, and it was under the eyes of everyone. The only people who could do this kind of thing were the living Hell King and his subordinates. If it was other people, the emperor would have done it secretly. In a feudal society, under the imperial power, there were no human rights. Jingwan rubbed her slightly swollen temples. Luo Jinghua saw her like this and knew that she was kind-hearted. He was worried that she would be estranged from Jin Qinhuang. Little sister, Jin Qinhuang has already given you face, otherwise, it could have been a corpse at that time. I know, I'm just worried that he has killed too many people and damaged his virtue. It's not good. The members of the Gu family were a little annoying, but their crimes did not warrant death. Initially, he only wanted to teach that Lady Gu a lesson, not take her life. However, this lesson was a little too harsh. Now that things had turned out like this, the matter was already irreversible. Could Jingwan still have a conflict with Jin Qinhuang because of her? Jingwan was very clear about who was close and who was distant. She was not a saint. Even if Li Hongyuan killed an unrelated person in front of her, she would not blame him. When Jingwan and Madame Gu arrived, other than Luo Rongyan, Madame Zhang, and the Gu family, Madame Luo and Madame Wang were also there. Madame Wang was in charge of the household affairs and had to be involved in all matters of the family. Madame Luo, as the person with the highest authority in the inner residence, should also come and take a look. However, at this time they were all very silent. The Fu doctor prescribed medicine, inserted needles, and fed the medicine to Lady Gu. Whether she could endure or not, it would depend on her own luck. Madame Gu and Madame Zhang hugged Gu Lianer and kept crying. Jingwan's uncle, his eyes were red and he looked like he was on the verge of exploding in anger. Although he did not say anything, but looking at his appearance, it was likely that he wanted to put this account on the Luo family. Old Madam is not saying anything. Could it be that this matter did not happen? My good sister became like this after going out for a trip. Even the minister's residence is not so overbearing and unreasonable. If you don't give this Gu an explanation, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will not let this matter rest. What kind of person was Madame Luo? How could she not see that this man's eyes were full of calculation? They came to the capital this time to borrow the Luo family's power, whether it was to seek an official position or to achieve other goals. However, in these few days, Luo Shongshu did not have any intention of paying attention to him at all. It was impossible for him not to be anxious. Now that such a thing had happened, he must be very happy. With such a handle, he would naturally try his best to gain benefits. Madame Luo was calm and collected. Even if you want an explanation, this old one needs to know what happened. If it was your sister who did something, this old one will definitely pursue the matter of you implicating the Luo family. Our Luo family is upright and upright. We will never say no to what we should take responsibility for. However, if it is something that we should not take responsibility for, no one can blackmail us. Only then did Uncle Gu realize that his attitude was too extreme. He only spoke viciously, but if he really went against the Luo family, it would undoubtedly be like striking a rock with an egg, and he would end up digging his own grave. Old Madam, I was also anxious for a moment. Please forgive me. After all, Father and Mother handed my sister over to me. Now that things have turned out like this, how can I explain it to them? As he spoke, he actually choked up. Jingwan and her sister looked at each other outside the door. This acting was also very good. It was no wonder that they could raise a girl like Gu Lianer who would cry whenever she wanted. Her parents were both outstanding. With the excellent genes of both of them, she was definitely better than her parents. However, they had been back for a long time. Could it be that Gu Lianer had not clearly explained what had happened? Madame Luo was indifferent. What kind of situation had she not seen before? How could she be deceived by such a small trick? Since your daughter and the servant girl were shocked and incoherent, and the other children of your family did not know anything, there might be someone among the children of the Luo family who knows. I believe that they would not be like your daughter and the others, who could not take the slightest shock. Call them over now and ask them. Even if they don't know anything, there are so many people at the Lantern Festival. We will definitely find out who is right and who is wrong. She then sent someone to call someone over. Since she had said this, Uncle Gu could not say anything more. He looked at his little sister lying on the bed with an unfathomable expression. Before the mother beside Madame Luo reached the door, the brother and sister outside the door asked the servant girl to open the door curtain and entered one after another. Grandmother! Madame Luo looked over and nodded. You came at the right time. Do you know what happened? The two first paid their respects, then Luo Jinghua recounted what happened. Grandmother, who in the entire capital doesn't know what kind of temper Jin Qinhuang has? She shamelessly rushed forward, purely seeking her own death. If it wasn't for little sister, she would probably have fished up the corpse in the river. Moreover, she clearly knew that he was little sister's fiancé, yet she still acted like this. It's really disgusting. Don't even mention Jin Qinhuang's people, I also want to slap her into the river. Luo Jinghua said as he glanced at the unconscious little sister Gu, his eyes cold. Madame Luo's expression also became cold. Is it all true? Biaomei was also at the side at that time. Even if she couldn't explain it clearly, she wouldn't have been unable to nod or shake her head. Uncle Gu's face was green and white. He had provoked a Wang Ye. Sure enough, even if he died, he would have died in vain. He glared at Gu Lianer. Is what your Biaoge said true? What are you crying for? Quickly say it. Gu Lianer was startled and cried even more pitifully. She seemed to nod with difficulty. Madame Luo stood up. Then there's nothing to say about this matter. According to seniority, your little sister is Wan's elder. This old one has never seen such a shameless thing in my life. This niece wants to be my grandson's concubine. She really has a family history. Eldest daughter-in-law, arrange for someone to send her to the manor overnight. Tomorrow is your grandson's 1-month birthday. If she dies at home, wouldn't it be bad luck? Whether she lives or dies, it all depends on her luck. Your family, move out of the Luo family within 3 days. Otherwise, don't blame this old one for mercilessly sweeping you out of the house. Zhongshe, you better draw a clear line between you and them. Otherwise, take the letter of divorce and get out of the Luo family. Madame Luo finished speaking and directly left. It could be seen that she was really angry. Wangshe and Jingwan siblings all left with Madame Luo. Zhongshe sat there in a daze, not knowing how to react. Luo Rongyan pulled her. Let's go. What are you still doing here? Zhongshe seemed to have found her backbone and tightly grasped his hand. Husband, we'll talk about it when we get back. He didn't want to stay in this place. He didn't care about this family. Uncle Gu wanted to keep them, but no one paid any attention to him. After Madame Zhang got married, Luo Rongyan was the center of her life. Her children occupied the edges and corners of her life. There was still a thread that connected her maternal family. If she maintained a good relationship with everyone, then naturally there would be peace. However, if someone threatened her marriage, then not to mention her married sister, even her parents, she would cut ties with them. Uncle Gu clenched his fists and glared at the mother and daughter who were still crying. Still crying? Look, this is all your fault. Eating and living in the Luo family's house was naturally much better than before. Luo Shongshu didn't say anything, and they didn't want to look for a house outside. However, they had no choice now. After all, if they were really kicked out, it would be too embarrassing. Zhongshe didn't expect things to turn out like this. She only thought that her sister was easy to manipulate. If she could be like a fish in water in the Luo family with that kind of personality, then her mother-in-law must be soft. Who knew that her prediction was completely wrong? How can you blame me? Isn't it all your sister's fault? She's trying to climb up the social ladder. How can she covet a noble? I told you not to take her with us. Now that we've completely offended the Luo family, are you satisfied? Zhongshe was a little flower outside, but not in her own home. Zhongshe's face was livid. Indeed, his daughter was wrong, but more importantly, his sister had completely angered Madame Luo. They heard the most in the Luo family about how much Madame Luo loved her third granddaughter. Therefore, when Zhongshe sent people to take Gu Xiaomei away, their family couldn't stop them. They couldn't wait to help get her away. After Zhongshe heard it, Zhongshe didn't comment. She had seen many such selfish people. When they were useful, they were like blood-sucking bugs. When there was a problem, they would push the blame to others and couldn't wait to kick them to death. Zhongshe didn't have any opinions about Zhongshe. Zhongshe had long known about her. Zhongshe sent Gu Xiaomei away just like that, without causing any waves. As for whether she could see her again, it depended on whether she could endure it or not. The next day, Jingwan and the others came out of the main courtyard to pay their respects and went directly to the first branch. Yu Yao, who refused to go home last night, also followed. Speaking of which, she was the most compatible with the legitimate daughter of the fourth branch. She didn't know if it was because this Miss Luo also followed Jingwan like a little tail when she was in Qi and Prefecture and was deeply influenced by Jingwan. Little Zhongshe had finished her confinement and was neat and tidy. She didn't look much plump. After all, when she was pregnant, she didn't look good, but she was in good spirits. When she saw Jingwan and the others, she smiled very happily. Jingwan and the others looked at the child. They had seen him when they just came back. It had only been a few days, but they felt that he seemed to have grown a little. Children really grew older. Because he was a little thin and weak when he was born, they took very good care of him. Now, he looked white and chubby. His eyes were big and round and especially bright. Jingwan guessed that there shouldn't be any problems with this child. Probably because she was pregnant, Sun Yijia liked the child very much now. She couldn't wait to take this little baby back and raise him. Little Zhongshe laughed. Sister-in-law, don't be envious. Wait a few more months until the one in your belly comes out. After a long time, you will be annoyed. We'll talk about it when the time comes. For now, let me cherish him. They chatted and laughed around the little baby, and guests came one after another. The first guests who came were naturally the members of the Wang family. They were Madame Wang's biological mother, several sisters-in-law, younger sisters-in-law, and 2 younger niece-in-law. This branch of the Wang family was also flourishing. Because he was the eldest grandson of the eldest branch and the first one in the 4th generation, he was naturally very important, so the ceremony was very grand. The officials in the imperial court couldn't come, but their family members also came. For those who were not suitable to visit, such as the princes. As for Luo Jingwa's wedding, because Li Hongyuan took the lead, others followed. This time, Li Hongyuan only sent gifts. Naturally, it was not appropriate for his wife to visit, but he sent a lot of congratulatory gifts. Great Elder Princess also sent someone to send a lot of congratulatory gifts. Yu Yao became the representative of Great Elder Princess's mansion. She ran around the Luo family happily. Those who saw her also had some thoughts in their minds. However, she was just a child. Perhaps it only represented that the 2 families had a nominal relationship, but they didn't have any deeper contact. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653303. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition website: bicken.com. Chapter 221. As for the Grand Secretary, he didn't show up for most of the time at the temporary imperial residence. Everyone thought that he really couldn't make it. When he returned to the capital, if he didn't hand in a memorial and resign, then Lu Chengdi would directly remove him from his position. Who would have thought that he didn't stay quiet after returning to the capital but gradually began to show up? His spirit was getting better day by day, as if the capital's environment was more suitable for him. It was nourishing. Now, he could show off his power in the cabinet again. Lu Chengdi didn't seem to have the intention of firing him. Speaking of which, Ruan Ruizhong had always been in the emperor's party and only listened to the emperor's orders. For Lu Chengdi, he was loyal and capable. There was no one more convenient to use than him. When Ruan Ruizhong was in the temporary imperial residence, he didn't show up and also cut off contact with Lu Chengdi. Of course not. From time to time, he would write memorials to talk about the past and talk about the relationship between the emperor and his minister. Then, he would give appropriate suggestions about the flood. While not forgetting their relationship, he also let Lu Chengdi know his ability. He also appropriately expressed that he was recuperating now in order to be more loyal to the emperor. Lu Chengdi was actually very clear about his physical condition. After all, it was the imperial physician who took Ruan Ruizhong's pulse. As for those memorials, why didn't the other princes know about it? Lu Chengdi was not a puppet emperor and naturally had his own channels and means. Otherwise, if he let his sons know everything clearly, he wouldn't be able to survive. After learning about Ruan Ruizhong's physical condition, Lu Chengdi didn't intend to dismiss him. Even if he wanted to deceive himself and tell himself that his sons were harmonious, he knew very well that they were suppressing each other on the surface because of political differences. Not to mention that there must be an undercurrent or even a bloody storm in the place where he couldn't see. In such a situation, changing the Grand Secretary of the Cabinet would definitely be a fierce battle. The person who sat on the throne in the end might not be to his liking. In this case, why bother to change? Anyway, he didn't take the matter of the Ruan family seriously, and no one took it seriously. Originally, the source of everything was Ruan Fengfei. She was still a victim, and didn't cause any big trouble. Therefore, it was really not that easy to put a label on Ruan Ruizhong. Lu Chengdi did not want to replace him, and Ruan Ruizhong himself was also very cautious. Even if they could not find anything that could be used against him, how could the others take him down? At this time, Prince Rue was probably the only one with a burning mouth. The others might only feel regret in their hearts. The Grand Secretary was still firmly held in Ruan Ruizhong's hand, not spitting it out. However, Prince Rue was different. His mother had thoroughly offended Ruan Ruizhong. He originally thought that this old thing wouldn't be able to climb back up, but who knew? He was the Grand Secretary of the Imperial Cabinet. All the memorials to major events in the world had to go through him. Even though there were still 3 cabinet elders in the Imperial Cabinet, he could still influence many things without batting an eyelid. He didn't need to side with anyone. He only needed to slightly target Prince Rue in certain areas to make him suffer a great loss. No one would even notice that something was wrong. Prince Rue knew this very well, so how could he not be anxious? After Imperial concubine Su learned of this matter, she could only say, miscalculation. Other than that, she couldn't do anything else, let alone say a word in front of Lu Chengdi. Imperial concubine Su was favored, but she was far from being able to participate in politics. Ruan Ruizhong knew how he had offended Luo Peishon. Naturally, he would find an opportunity to apologize. However, this kind of thing was naturally not easy to say. However, these old foxes in the officialdom could twist their words 78 times in their stomachs. Things that they already knew, if they were mentioned in a vague way, they would know everything. Then, they would have a few meaningful words. Well, they were probably all working for the same person. Well, since your family's matter has been dealt with and you have been kept in the dark for so many years, I will be magnanimous and not bicker with you. During the banquet, Luo Shongshu's great-grandson was carried out for everyone to see. He received a lot of praise. He was so small and didn't know anything yet. He was smart and had the appearance of great talent. In the future, he would definitely become a pillar of the country and so on. Everyone knew that this was flattery. Under normal circumstances, no one would pay attention to it. But Luo Peishan was in a good mood as a great-grandfather, so he naturally happily accepted it all. When the child was brought back, he brought back a lot of good things. It should be known that he had already received a lot of good things from the female guests before. After this little guy's 1-month birthday banquet, it was time to prepare for Jingwan's coming-of-age ceremony. On the 6th day of September, there were still 10 or 20 days to go. However, the big families would not complain about having too much time to prepare these things. They would only feel that it was not enough. If it were the royal family, it would be more cumbersome, especially when it was related to the dignity of the emperor. For example, the birthday banquet and so on, it would take at least 3 months to prepare in advance. Invitations were sent to many high officials and noble families in the capital. Although there were so many officials in the capital that if a plaque fell down, 2 of the 3 people who were hit by it might be officials, there were not many families who were qualified to be first-grade officials. Those who were below 3rd grade probably could only be relatives. Jingwan's status and her relationship with Great Elder Princess and Prince Jean were obvious. Her coming-of-age ceremony was at least several times more grand than the 1-month birthday banquet of the eldest grandson of the first branch of the Luo family. Because Great Elder Princess was present, the concubines of other princes and princesses would naturally be present, not to mention the madams and old madams of dukes' mansions and marquis mansions. As far as the current Luo family was concerned, perhaps only Luo Peishan's birthday banquet could be compared with this. As expected, when they learned that Jingwan's coming-of-age ceremony was about to be held, many people inquired about the candidate for the position. Although they knew that there might not be anyone who would accept the position in the end, they still couldn't help but think about it. Apart from other things, Great Elder Princess would be the guest of honor. If she praised the candidate, the status of their daughter would immediately rise a lot. Yes, no one had different ideas about the candidate of the guest of honor. The Luo family didn't hang on to this matter. They directly announced to the public that they had found a candidate and had obtained the other party's consent. Therefore, since those who had the idea didn't get the news, it had nothing to do with them. Although they didn't directly say who the candidate was, they still knew it after inquiring about it. After all, it was not a secret. However, this final result made many people feel a little strange. They had a biological sister. Even if she was too young and unsuitable, there was one who was only a year younger than her. Even worse, there were still cousins. In the end, she chose an outsider. What should they say? Of course, as an outsider, they would only grumble in their hearts and wouldn't say anything. But as a relative, they would definitely be unhappy. As a relative, they would support an outsider instead of a relative. They had never seen such a heartless and unscrupulous person. Of course, they wouldn't say such harsh words out loud, but that was what they meant. They even hoped that Jingwan would be replaced. However, these people were all stopped by Madame Luo. With her there, no one dared to act rashly. This matter didn't reach Jingwan's ears. However, even if she knew, Jingwan wouldn't change her expression. She was an emotional and cold-blooded animal. So what? The Zhou family was quite happy. After all, their daughter generally didn't have a chance to show her face in front of Great Elder Princess in her life. Because she was already engaged, they didn't care whether she could be favored by those noble ladies or not. However, Zhou Yingshuang's uncles and even her father felt a little regretful that she was engaged too early. If they had known that today would happen, they should have broken off the engagement with the Chancellor of the Imperial College now? When Zhou Yingshuang learned about it, she burst into tears. At that time, when she was blind, the other party still agreed to this marriage. Now, she just wanted to show her face, and they wanted to break off the engagement? Did she think she was noble just because she showed her face? She was so snobbish and heartless. How could she still want to find another man? She might as well not get married and be a sister-in-law for the rest of her life. Zhou Yingshuang was so angry that she almost didn't want to be the assistant. Fortunately, her mother stopped her. If you really did that, wouldn't you be wasting Miss Luo's and Miss Yuan's good intentions? Don't bother with them, your grandmother is still above. If they dare to say such things, your grandmother will fly and break their legs. Time went by in a busy way. Soon, it was the 3rd day of September. After writing their resignation on a piece of paper, Luo Rongyen and Madame Zhang went to Great Elder Princess's mansion in person. They first greeted her verbally and then submitted their resignation. 2 days later, the couple went to Great Elder Princess's mansion again. Great Elder Princess gave them a reply. On the 6th day of September, the Luo family opened the door to welcome the guests. Although most of the guests were female, they were all noble, so Madame Luo had to cheer up to welcome them. When Li Hongyuan came in person, it seemed that there was nothing strange. As for the other brothers, it was even less strange. However, these noble masters found that there seemed to be servants of the Luo family serving them. Others didn't feel anything, but Prince Ru'ei felt a little guilty. After all, he had once seduced a girl in the Luo family. Now there was no suitable girl for him to seduce, but he was guarded against as if he was a thief. Li Hongyuan glanced at him. He was the one who added fuel to the fire about Luo Jingying. Today was his sweetheart's big day. If anyone dared to make trouble, he would be the first to kill him. As the star of today's ceremony, Jingwan was preparing for the East Room. At this time, she had finished bathing, changed her clothes, and sat down to wait. Beside her, there were not only the host and assistant, but also the people who were close to her. Seeing that it was almost time, Great Elder Princess left. Outside, as the host, Luo Rongyen and Madame Zhang stood on the steps to the east and waited. 3 assistants selected from their relatives stood on the west with trays. At this moment, the music sounded. The graceful and noble Great Elder Princess walked in unhurriedly from the outside. Luo Rongyen and Madame Zhang hurried to greet her. They bowed to each other and respectfully asked Great Elder Princess to sit in the host's seat. Then, many guests also sat in the audience seats. In the end, Luo Rongyen and Madame Zhang sat in the host's seat. When everything was ready, Luo Rongyen stood up and made a simple speech, announcing the official start of Jingwan's adulthood ceremony. Zhou Shuang came out first. She washed her hands and stood beside several assistants. Then, Jingwan, dressed in a white robe, walked out unhurriedly. The white robe was a boy's robe. The style was simple and the color was monochromatic. Even so, it couldn't cover up Jingwan's style. Some people said that the simpler the clothes, the better the temperament and self-restraint of a person. Undoubtedly, this was the case on Jingwan. Digression: at the end of the month, the monthly tickets and evaluation tickets were cleared. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653304. HTML. Click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com Mobile Edition website: bicken.com. Chapter 222. It was said that the simpler the clothes, the more it reflected a person's temperament and self-restraint. Jingwan was undoubtedly so. Jingwan had 2 completely different experiences and cultural accumulations of 2 completely different lives. Because of her previous life, she had foresight and a magnanimity that ordinary girls could not match. Also because of the hardships and tribulations in her previous life, she was tenacious and unyielding. In this life, her ancient upbringing and the warmth of her family made her more reserved and gentle. All these things were mixed in her, but they did not contradict each other. She was like the highest quality jade that had been carefully carved and polished, blooming with a brilliant radiance. Jingwan stood in the center of the field with a calm face. She faced the south and bowed to the many guests who were watching the ceremony. She turned to the west and knelt on the mat that had been placed in advance. Zhou Shuang came forward to comb her hair and then put the comb on Jingwan's left side. Perhaps it was because there were too many people and guests, but Zhou Shuang seemed to be a little nervous. Jing Yuan felt that her hands were trembling a little, but fortunately, she was able to control herself. If she made a fool of herself, even if no one said anything, she would blame herself and be too ashamed to show her face. Jing Yuan got up, turned around, and knelt on the ground facing the east. She naturally put her hands on her thighs, with her elbows facing out and her fingertips facing in. Great Elder Princess got up, followed by Luo Rongyan and Madame Zhang. Great Elder Princess washed her hands and dried them on the steps. Then they returned to their seats and sat down peacefully. Then, the ceremony began. One of the secretaries came forward with a tray. On the tray, there was a plain dress with a matching handkerchief and hairpin. At the same time, Great Elder Princess walked to Jing Yuan, opened and closed her mouth, and recited a congratulatory speech. On an auspicious day in this month, I'll add a dress. Give up your youthful aspirations and follow your lead. May you live a long and prosperous life. Then she leaned slightly and combed Jing Yuan's hair. Because of her status, Great Elder Princess did not kneel down to add to Jing Yuan's hairpin ceremony. When Great Elder Princess took the hairpin, she paused slightly, which was rare for her. When a noble girl of high status reached the marriageable age, the concubines in the palace would usually give her a lot of things. The hairpin, and hairpin were basically given by the Empress, and Jing Yuan was no exception. However, Great Elder Princess knew that the gifts given by the Empress were not good. After all, her daughter also received a gift at the marriageable age. When she took the hairpin, she concluded that it was not given by the Empress. There was no reason for her daughter to be worse than Jing Yuan's. The Luo family was not frivolous, neither was her adopted daughter. No one would think that the Empress's gifts were not good and dared to switch the gifts given by the Empress. Great Elder Princess acted as if she hadn't noticed anything, but her goddaughter probably didn't know anything. After that, she turned around and returned to her original spot. Zhou Yingshuang stepped forward and straightened Jing Yuan's hairpin symbolically. Jing Yuan stood up, bowed to Great Elder Princess, and then turned back to the East Room. Zhou Yingshuang took the tray from the minister and followed Jing Yuan to the East Room. There were only Nanny Gong and Jing Yuan's two maids here, so there were no outsiders. Jing Yuan shook Zhou Yingshuang's hand with a smile. Her palm was indeed a little sweaty. She opened her mouth slightly and said, "Well done." Zhou Yingshuang breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. Several people helped her to change into a plain dress. The pure and beautiful dress symbolized the innocence of a girl. When it was taken off, it seemed to fade away. The dress was similar to an undergarment. There were no decorations on the edge of the dress, and the belt was also made of cloth. However, whether it was a plain dress or a plain dress, it looked very simple, and it was only worn during the ceremony. No matter the material or the workmanship, it was the best. Jing Yuan came out in a plain dress, half opened her arms, and showed it to the guests. After a while, Jing Yuan knelt down in front of Luo Rongyan and Madame Zhang, and bowed to them to thank them for raising her. However, Jing Yuan's bow made them feel ashamed. Madame Zhang couldn't stop crying. When she found it, she hurriedly wiped it away. Those who didn't know would only think that she was crying for joy because her child had grown up. Looking at Jing Yuan's peaceful face, Luo Rongyan couldn't guess what kind of mood she was in now. A few days ago, Madame Luo almost deprived them of the qualification to be the host of Jing Yuan's adulthood ceremony. They knelt down and begged for it. Both parents were present. If they didn't attend as hosts, what would others think? There would be a lot of speculations and rumors. Not only would the Luo family's reputation be damaged, but also Jing Yuan would be implicated. Madame Luo's harsh words made them feel ashamed and once again made them deeply realize how much of a failure they were as parents. When they thought of how many times their children had been disappointed behind their backs, their hearts ached to the extreme. But now was not the time to think too much. They hurriedly asked her to get up. Jing Yuan knelt down on the mat again to the east, and the second ceremony was carried out. Great Elder Princess did the same thing as before. Two servants came forward with a dress, a plain dress, and a hairpin. Great Elder Princess stood in front of Jing Yuan and recited a congratulatory speech. On the auspicious moon, you will wear it. I respect you for your majesty and prudence. May live for 10,000 years and enjoy whose blessings forever." After Zhou Shuang took off the hairpin on her head, Great Elder Princess took out an exquisite and expensive hairpin and Jingwan's hairpin and put it back on her head. Zhou Shuang adjusted Jingwan's hairpin. After Jingwan stood up and bowed to Great Elder Princess again, she took over Chu Ju's deep robe from UC and entered the east room with Jingwan to change her clothes. The light and elegant long skirt symbolized the innocence of a young girl, while the Chu Ju deep gown showed the bright beauty of a young girl in her prime. After they came out, they also showed off their clothes to everyone. Then, they faced the guests and knelt down. This was the second kowtow to show their respect to their teachers and seniors. No matter from which point of view, Great Elder Princess accepted her bow and stood up with a smile. Then, the third edition was carried out. There were 3 officers carrying large sleeves, long dresses, ceremonial robes, and hairpins. Great Elder Princess stood in front of Jingwan and recited the greeting 3 times. "In the name of the year, in the name of the month, in the name of the salty jars. Since the brothers are here, they have become Jud. Since the yellow river is boundless, you shall be blessed by heaven." Zhou Shuang took off the previous hairpin. Great Elder Princess and Jingwan put on the hairpins. After 3 editions, she changed her clothes 3 times, which showed the gorgeous process of Jingwan's transformation. Jingwan, who stood in front of everyone, was wearing a long dress with large sleeves, long dresses, and ceremonial robes. She looked graceful and elegant. It seemed that no one was more suitable for this dress than her. Many of the guests were whispering. No matter in their expressions or words, they were all full of admiration for Jingwan. Then, they looked at Prince Jin as if they were thinking about something. It seemed that it was a pity to marry such a living king of hell. Li Hongyuan looked at Jingwan with a deep look. No matter how many people were around now, he only had eyes for her. It was not that he had never seen Jingwan dressed up, but it seemed that no one had ever seen her so seductive. Every word and action of hers seemed to hit his heart directly, which was itchy, numb, and a little indescribable pain. Perhaps it was because it meant that she was an adult. To put it bluntly, Li Hongyuan was a vicious wolf who had been waiting by the side for a long time. He always wanted to take Jingwan back to his nest. Now he had all the land, people, and he only needed the right time. He had waited for so many years, and in the process, he was also impatient. There were only a few months left, but his impatience seemed to have reached an unprecedented peak at this moment. Li Hongyuan withdrew his gaze from Jingwan and lowered his head, trying his best to suppress the impulse to take Jingwan away under everyone's watchful eyes. Obsessions, demonic barriers, once obtained, they could probably be eliminated. Li Hongyuan felt that this kind of thing probably would not happen to him. Once he got close to her, he wanted to get closer to her by another zhang. In the past, he could scheme for her to be engaged to someone else, and even worked in the dark. Now, he wanted to flay the skin and pull out the tendons of anyone who dared to think of Jingwan. Prince Rue also withdrew his gaze from Jingwan. He did not know how many times he lamented that it was a pity in his heart. He inadvertently glanced at Li Hongyuan sitting next to him. "Sixth brother, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Prince Rue's words seemed to have pulled him out of a bad situation, and he suddenly turned his head. At that moment, Prince Rue only felt that he was being stared at by the most ferocious beast. It was malicious and ruthless, with its bloody mouth wide open, as if it could pounce and tear you to pieces at any time. His heart rapidly contracted, and his body tilted to one side, almost flipping over his seat. Prince Rue's expression was abnormally ugly. Although he did not flip over his seat, it was already very rude and humiliating. His status was noble, and he was sitting in the first row. Many people saw it. At that time, he did not even dare to look at the other people's expressions. He tried his best to maintain his composure. Fortunately, this was not difficult for him. He did not want to look at Li Hongyuan again. In fact, he did not dare to admit his fear. What else could he do if he did not admit it? In fact, Li Hongming instinctively wanted to run away. It was not that he had great willpower to restrain himself, but it was purely because his legs were weak and he could not stand up. From the time he was born until now, he had never been so embarrassed. Even if others did not know, he was very angry in his heart. His attitude towards Li Hongyuan had already changed, but at this moment, he hated him even more than before. Li Hongyuan glanced at his legs. They were actually trembling in fear. That was all he could do. Li Hongyuan smiled for no reason, but it looked very evil. Anyone who saw it would feel their scalp tingle. This living king of hell could really make people's hearts tremble in fear. Jingwan pursed her lips. Her heart was also a little irregular right now. This man was simply like that poppy. You knew it was fatal, but you would still be bewitched by him. Especially when he deliberately seduced you. How many people could resist? And if one really got addicted to it, it would probably be really hard to quit. Jingwan did not know that to Li Hongyuan, she was the heart-linking voodoo. Only when she was safe would he be safe. He never wanted to abandon her. He only wanted to place her at the top of his heart and protect her in the palm of his hand. However, he did not want to lock her up so that no one could see her or think about her. As long as she was within his reach, he was willing to give her everything she wanted. He wouldn't imprison her, but he would destroy everyone who coveted her. Disregarding everything else, just this person beside him, his so-called third brother. Li Hongyuan used to be on the same level as his third imperial brother and had the same thoughts as him. A woman who only had looks, no matter how beautiful she was just a plaything. Even if he cared for her a little, deep down, he thought that she was not presentable and would only embarrass him if he brought her out. As for Jingwan, she had a good family background and was the best of the best. She was the person who could give them face the most. Naturally, she was the one they wanted the most. Now this person was his eyeball, his heart, and his flesh. He couldn't tolerate having thoughts that he shouldn't have because he admired her. If he had evil thoughts because of selfish interests instead of her own heart, he deserved to die. Li Hongyuan's smile became more and more bewitching. Jingwan withdrew her gaze and thought, this scourge. The three officials removed the furnishings for the coming-of-age ceremony and set up a wine banquet on the west steps. Great Elder Princess motioned Jingwan to take a seat. Jingwan stood on the west side of the table, facing the south. When Zhou Yingshuang served the wine, Jingwan turned to face the north. Great Elder Princess took the wine from Zhou Yingshuang's hand, walked to Jingwan, and then recited a toast. The sweet wine is thick, and I recommend it to your fragrance. Worship the place where you are sacrificed to determine your good fortune. Don't forget the birthday examination in the sky-bearing empire. Jingwan bowed to Great Elder Princess and took the wine. Great Elder Princess saluted back. Then, Jingwan sat down on her knees and sprinkled some wine on the ground as a libation. She held the wine cup with both hands and touched her lips symbolically. Even so, she still tasted something. It was sweet, a bit like ordinary sweet wine. However, the Luo family was rich, so the material used to make the wine was certainly not ordinary rice. Jingwan put the wine cup on the table. Zhou Yingshuang served a small bowl of crystal-clear rice. Jingwan took it, took a small bite, put it down, and saluted to Great Elder Princess. After Great Elder Princess saluted back, Jingwan got up and left the banquet. Jingwan walked to Luo Rongyan and Madame Zhang, knelt down, and listened to their teachings. Luo Rongyan had mixed feelings. He had prepared a speech, but at this time, he couldn't say a word. After a while, Luo Rongyan said, I hope you live a peaceful and prosperous life. Madame Zhang sobbed softly and didn't say a word. This kind of situation was not unheard of, so it would not be criticized by others. But was Luo Rongyan's teaching? In the eyes of others, it was his love for his daughter. Jingwan also had mixed feelings. They were not qualified parents, but they were not bad parents. At least, the father now was much better than the father in the previous life. She didn't know whether it was because he was too disappointed in the previous life, so he didn't have extravagant hopes. Or he had expectations when he was young, but he decisively gave up when he found that they were not qualified parents. She couldn't remember. In fact, Jingwan was very clear that today's result was not caused by her parents alone. She didn't manage it well was also one of the factors. In the end, the influence of the previous life was too deep. Because she and her grandmother depended on each other, she taught her too many things. In this life, when she faced her grandmother who was similar to her grandmother, she subconsciously got close to her and was willing to build a good relationship with her. Her father, on the other hand, had one wife and many concubines, which ruined her impression of him. Perhaps she even secretly hated him. If she had treated them with the same attitude as her grandmother, unless these two people didn't like her from the bottom of their hearts, they wouldn't be like this today. Even so, Jingwan didn't regret it. She had another life's memory. Weren't those children who were born white paper because of their parents' sacrifice? So, she wasn't wrong at all, right? Yes, it was like this. This feeling of completely blaming someone else for his mistakes was quite satisfying. Jingwan smiled gently at them. It was good to maintain this situation. Although Luo Rongyan's teachings were not quite the same, Jingwan still followed the script. Although this son is not smart, I dare not only accept it. Then she bowed to them. Jingwan stood up and walked to the center of the hall. She bowed to the main guests, the musicians, and the performers. Everyone nodded in return. Luo Rongyan and Madame Zhang stood up and walked to Jingwan's side. My daughter's hairpin ceremony is now complete. This one thanks everyone for their hospitality. The three of them bowed to the audience again. The entire agenda was finished. The other masters of the Luo family came out to greet the guests. The male guests were led to the front courtyard, and the female guests were led to the back courtyard. It was still early to leave the banquet, so now was the time to chat and build relationships. For the princes who needed a lot of help, they especially couldn't let go of this opportunity. Not only did they have to rope them in, but they also had to prevent others from expressing their goodwill. It was really exhausting. Jingwan held Sun Yijia's hand. Sister-in-law, you've worked hard. Are you tired? I'm fine. Sun Yijia volunteered to be a musician. Nanny Gong and the others had already prepared the clothes for Jingwan after the hairpin ceremony. She didn't need to choose at this moment. She quickly changed her clothes and dressed up. Sun Yijia was inadvertently attracted by the hairpin taken from Jingwan's hair. She instantly thought of the same question as Great Elder Princess. Where are the hairpin and hairpin? Third young madam, here they are. Qing Zhu brought a tray over. Sun Yijia reached out and took a look. Sure enough, they were there. What's wrong? Is there anything special about these things? Yuan Qiao leaned forward and asked. Nothing. They just look very unique. Sun Yijia smiled faintly. It was so disrespectful to switch the things rewarded by the Empress. Even if she knew it, it was better to pretend that she didn't know. Even if it was exposed in the end, the culprit would take the blame. It had nothing to do with the Luo family. According to Sun Yijia's understanding of that aunt of hers, her tolerance towards Jin Qinhuang was out of the ordinary. She was even able to give up her dignity as the Empress. It was probably because she was able to endure to this extent that Jin Qinhuang did not find trouble with her. After all, she was still the Empress. Such a compromise was too much and was indeed not easy to handle. Many times, Sun Yijia admired her aunt very much. However, she was the noblest woman in the world, but she was tolerant of the nominal son of a concubine. Even if it was an expedient measure to protect herself by retreating in order to advance, she was not only aggrieved but also made others think that she was a coward and easy to bully. Of course, other people in the harem couldn't bully her. She was the only one who compromised. Moreover, she had only confronted Prince Jin a few times. Few people knew about it. But so what? After Jingwan dressed up, Sun Yijia felt ashamed of her own inferiority. How could such a tender cabbage be eaten by a pig outside? Leaving the begonia house, Jingwan, as today's main character, naturally had to entertain the guests. Just now, old Madame Luo had already sent someone to inform them to go directly to Shi Yuan. Everyone went there to watch the opera. At the entrance of Shi Yuan, Jingwan saw the listless Gu Xiaomei. Jingwan's first reaction was, oh, her life was quite tough. She didn't die. At that time, the doctor said that she might not make it. In the end, she was thrown to the country estate. No one took care of her, but she stubbornly survived. As long as she was still alive, Jingwan didn't find it strange that she would appear here. Her uncle and aunt were quite sensible. They moved out on their own. As long as they didn't fall out with each other, it was natural for them to visit her when she became of age. When Gu Xiaomei saw Jingwan, her eyes were filled with bone-deep hatred. However, she quickly withdrew her gaze and even greeted Jingwan properly. She lowered her head and stood to the side. It was obvious that she wanted Jingwan to go in first. Logically speaking, Gu Xiaomei was an elder. Jingwan wasn't married. Even if she was a daughter of an official, she didn't have a rank. When one didn't care about status, one naturally had to consider seniority. Did she really not know the rules, or was she doing it on purpose? Even Sun Yijia's eyes were sharp when she looked at her. Jingwan felt very speechless. You were the one who wanted to get close to that man. You were taught a lesson by him. Now you hate me. Isn't this role reversed? Shouldn't you be the one who should be angry? Why is Wan standing at the entrance? Greetings, Your Highness. The group of people hurriedly greeted him. No need for formalities. Who is this? Li Hongyuan's gaze fell on Gu Xiaomei. It was obvious that these people had stopped at the entrance because of her. Where did she come from? Jingwan was surprised. Your Highness, you don't know her? Li Hongyuan raised his eyebrows. Should this prince know her? Jingwan thought for a moment. This prince didn't see her face clearly at that time. Or maybe he just met her once and couldn't remember her at all. Both seemed to be reasonable. No. Jingwan glanced at Gu Xiaomei and saw her body tremble. Speaking of which, the person she wanted to pursue, the person who almost killed her, didn't have any impression of her. This was a big blow. Let's go in. Li Hongyuan stepped into the west garden first. Jingwan followed him in a step behind. Sun Yijia and the other two deliberately slowed down a few steps. Regarding Gu Xiaomei's glorious deeds, Sun Yijia didn't see it with her own eyes, but she heard her husband talk about it. The other two were even more eyewitnesses. They were all daughters. When they were at home, they saw many of their father's disgusting yin-yang. Therefore, they deeply detested people like Gu Xiaomei. Ying Shuang, you say, why are there so many wretched people in this world? If it's a man who flirts with flowers and grass, it's fine. But there are also girls who shamelessly throw themselves at him, encouraging those men's arrogance. They become more and more unscrupulous, simply. Zhou Ying Shuang covered her mouth. It's getting more and more outrageous, spouting nonsense. Who doesn't know that Jin Qinhuang is now wholeheartedly focused on Jingwan? Moreover, he has always been uninterested in people who throw themselves at him. Yuan Xiaoqiao pulled her hand away and smiled. You're right, the title of living king of hell is not for nothing. Luckily, he escaped once, but he's still not tactful. If he wants to throw himself at him again, he probably needs to tell his family in advance and remember to collect the corpse at the mass grave. What's the use of telling his family? Jin Qinhuang likes to be implicated. All right, don't say these unlucky words. Let's hurry and go in. Sun Yijia urged. Only then did the two people remember that they shouldn't say such dirty things to a pregnant person's ears. They smiled apologetically and held Sun Yijia's arms, one on the left and one on the right, as they walked into the west garden. From afar, they could hear the sound of singing. Bypassing a bush of flowers and trees, they saw the stage. Our Jin Qinhuang was still talking with Jingwan and didn't have the slightest intention of going to the male guest seats to sit and watch the play. Therefore, a certain person's purpose for coming here was obviously an ulterior motive. Fortunately, although the two people were close, Jin Qinhuang still had a bit of a gentleman's demeanor. Probably because a certain person's reputation was really too bad, even if they were close, Jingwan was also coerced and was a victim. In the current situation where women had always been strict, unexpectedly, no one accused Jingwan of anything. When they saw it, they also turned a blind eye. Jingwan gradually became aware of this point. She faintly looked at Li Hongyuan. Wangye is doing this on purpose, right? Li Hongyuan looked at Jingwan rather puzzledly. What? Pretend, you can continue to pretend with all your might. Nothing. Li Hongyuan chuckled. He had subtly stepped on his father's bottom line step by step, so that his father absolutely indulged him now. He could also subtly step on everyone's cognition. Of course, he didn't intend to do anything in front of others. When he stood with her, he only needed to prevent her from being criticized. It was so simple, so he didn't need to spend more than 10 years like the former, and it seemed that he was about to achieve it now. When they were in the courtyard of the summer palace, Sun Yijia had seen how lovey-dovey the two of them were. At this moment, she secretly rolled her eyes and pulled Yuan Qiao, who didn't know what happened, away with Zhou Yingshuang. Great elder princess took a book and ordered a play, which had already finished. Then a princess of the same generation ordered a play and also finished it. They were modest to each other. Madam Sun of Ding General Manor also ordered a play and also finished it. Then, these old things didn't take advantage of their seniority and let the juniors order what they liked. But speaking of it, Madam Luo, where did you hire this troupe? They are really good at singing. Yes, I don't know anyone in this troupe. Since they are so good at singing, how can they not be famous at all? They were sent here by Prince Jin's order. I think they should be the troupe raised by Prince Jin himself. Madame Luo didn't evade and said bluntly. Everyone fell silent. They originally wanted to invite the troupe back to their own families to perform next time. Well, they were raised by the King of Hell again. Don't think about anything else. They glanced at the leading actress on the stage. She had a slim figure, a gentle voice, and a beautiful face. There seemed to be several of them. In many people's eyes, an actress was similar to a prostitute, a lowly thing that couldn't be seen in public. There were also a bunch of foxes raised by so many people. Prince Jin specially sent them here today. Did he value third Miss Luo, or did he specially send them here to slap her in the face? This old Madame Luo was really able to keep her composure. If it was someone else, if the young lady that was held in the palm of their hands was treated like this, they would have long exploded in anger. However, the other party was Jin Qin Wang, a living king of hell. There was no need to say anything. Even if she said anything, it would also be a waste of time. From the beginning, Madame Luo knew that with such a prospective grandson-in-law, the Luo family would definitely be hated. Whether it was sympathy or gloating, she knew clearly in her heart whether it was sweet or bitter. As for whether he would prove to the world how he treated Wan Wan, Madame Luo didn't want to say anything now. She just waited and saw. Great elder princess, who didn't know the inside story, felt unbalanced. Why was her adopted daughter bullied by that evil creature? Where is Jingwan? Why haven't I seen her for so long? When she said this, she was clearly looking at the two figures who were only one step away from each other. Others didn't dare to go up, but Nanny Gong didn't have that concern. Miss, Great Elder Princess is looking for you. Jingwan subconsciously looked back and looked at the main seat of the female guests. Her foster mother was looking at her. She was a little far away, so she couldn't see clearly. However, Jingwan felt that her foster mother seemed to be angry. She felt a little guilty and short of breath inexplicably, as if she only cared about her love and left all the elders, relatives, and guests aside. Your Highness, I'll leave first. Without waiting for him to respond, Jingwan squatted down and quickly left. Li Hongyuan watched Jingwan's figure disappear for a moment and soon appeared on the second floor of the balcony. She first greeted the noblewomen, and then held Great Elder Princess's arm and acted coquettishly with a smile on her face. Li Hongyuan didn't know what Great Elder Princess said to her. Li Hongyuan crossed his arms in front of his chest and leaned against the rockery. His legs were crossed and his whole body looked very lazy. On the stage, there were plays one after another, and there was even a martial arts play. Li Hongyuan was absent-minded and hadn't seen Jingwan for a long time. He heard voices coming from the direction of the courtyard gate. It was the men who had finished their relationship and came to watch the play to kill time. Li Hongyuan stood up straight and went straight to the female guests' seats. Seeing Li Hongyuan come upstairs, the maid hurriedly reported to Madame Luo. As the master and an old lady, Madame Luo didn't need to care about trivial things. So Madame Luo had been sitting on the side with Li Hongyuan all the time. She didn't sit relatively at the back according to her status, but in the first row, with Great Elder Princess. Therefore, Great Elder Princess naturally heard the maid's words. Great Elder Princess just wanted to pull him over and give him a good scolding. Li Hongyuan was clever and came to the door himself. He turned a deaf ear to the greetings that came one after another along the way, and those elders did not take the initiative to greet him either. However, she didn't argue with him. If she really let him take the initiative, she would be worried that her life would be shortened. He didn't care about others, but he still had to give face to his aunt. However, before he spoke, Great Elder Princess scolded him. Don't you know how to avoid arousing suspicion? Great Elder Princess had a good relationship with Lu Chengdi, so she would scold these nephews and nephews. When she scolded them, they could only listen obediently. Li Hongyuan didn't feel much pain and was not much different from his father. Li Hongyuan sat down next to her. I didn't do anything shameful. I just said a few words. Why should I avoid arousing suspicion? Jingwan is my fiancée. She is coming of age today, and tomorrow we can ask the Ministry of Rites to prepare for the marriage. Master Liaochen said that we are a match made in heaven. Is there anything wrong with this marriage that makes me avoid her other fiancé? There was a hint of coldness in his words. What nonsense are you talking about? Shut up. Great Elder Princess snapped. For the sake of this vile creature's marriage, her imperial brother was worried to death. If something really went wrong, even if she, as his younger sister, said something she shouldn't say, she was afraid that he would take his anger out on her. In this case, Jingwan is destined to be mine. Then, what's wrong with talking to her before the marriage to get familiar with her? I don't want to meet someone I know nothing about when I get married. Even if I, Li Hongyuan, want to do something disgraceful, I will do it openly. Jingwan immediately spat at him in her heart. Bastard, don't you have done a lot of things secretly? To be able to say such words without blushing or panting, his face was truly unparalleled in the world. Jingwan silently lowered her head and pretended to be shy. However, many people around him nodded in agreement. It seemed that this bastard had a lot of credibility. Am I talking about this? There are so many female guests here. There are so many unmarried girls. You are a man. Imperial aunt, Li Hongyuan interrupted her. In all honesty, I didn't even look at them. On the contrary, I don't know how many of them looked at me. If there's anyone avoiding me, it should be them avoiding Ben Wang. Great Elder Princess was at a loss for words. Get out of here. Go to the male guest area, or get out of the garden. Li Hongyuan got up and walked away slowly. Great Elder Princess breathed a sigh of relief. This evil girl had committed too many sins. She couldn't control him at all. As long as he didn't go too far, she'd better leave him alone. Otherwise, she would be angered to death. What she worried most was that other people would follow his example and use this excuse to have private affairs. It would be terrible if they broke the rules. However, it was hard to find another man who was as bold as him and wouldn't be beaten by the girls. Great Elder Princess patted Jingwan's head, who seemed to be too ashamed to show her face. Good girl, I'm sorry. Jingwan didn't say anything. Well, she didn't feel wronged, but it was best to shut up now. Foster mother, I'll go downstairs and see if there's anything wrong. Go ahead. Knowing that she was shy, Great Elder Princess would let her go. After Jingwan's figure disappeared, Great Elder Princess looked at Madame Luo and said, Madame Luo, we are sorry to your family. Please forgive us. She meant, we, including Lu Chengdi. Madame Luo showed a helpless and forced smile at the right time. Great Elder Princess, you are too serious. On the other side of the wall, Li Hongyuan was drinking tea casually. The others were talking and laughing. They were enjoying themselves. Jingwan walked around downstairs. Most of the people here were unmarried girls and young women who had just married. After making sure that there was nothing rude, Jingwan was ready to sit down and chat with others and eat something. Jingwan believed that eldest aunt wouldn't make any mistakes in handling these matters. But not long after she sat down, a maid came in and whispered something in Jingwan's ear. Jingwan's expression didn't change. She greeted a few people nearby and went out. After leaving the two-story pavilion for some time, Lin Mingya said, "Bai Xiao, go and ask grandmother to come down. Also, tell old Madam Sun of Ding General Manor to ask her to call sister-in-law upstairs. You just wait by the side and don't let anyone disturb her." "Yes, Mississippi." Jingwan led others out of the garden. She waited at the gate of the garden for a while and saw Madame Luo come out. "Wanwan, what happened?" Old Madame Luo asked, her expression calm as usual. Chang Lingshan intended to drug third brother. However, second brother was drugged. Third brother was furious when he found out and pushed Chang Lingshan, who also took the drug, into the pool. She was unlucky and hit a stone on the side. Her left eyebrow was directly broken from the middle and almost hurt her eye. Second aunt is making a scene. Speaking of which, what should come will come. Since the day third brother and sister-in-law got married, since Chang Lingshan targeted Luo Jinghua and Sun Yijia's dowry, what happened today was not surprising. However, what Jingwan couldn't figure out was why her cousin always came to her. Was it easier to trick her because she was a relative? She was a relative and wouldn't be too ruthless. What is she doing? Which one of them should be responsible? Madame Luo didn't even raise her eyebrows. Digression: since they were very supportive, the author decided to do the same. Yesterday, it was a little late and didn't pass the review, so the author wrote an extra 3,000 words. Today, I will update 10,000 times. If I am not careful, I will update at night. Starting today, I will update in the morning. The latest update will be after 9 o'clock. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653307. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website, bicken.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.